You feel that? That nip in the air. The sniffles are starting. Winter is definitely on the way, folks. At this time of the year, I don't muck around. I fire up with Nature Bee's Power Pollen. It is packed with vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, everything your body's screaming out for when that temperature drops. It's helped me stay sharp, healthy, and it helps me fight off that sluggish winter slump. It has been doing that for 20 years. And right now, you can grab a 6-month supply of Nature Bee's Power Pollen for $160. Plus, they're throwing in a bonus month and 2 bars of that famous pollen and honey soap. So before winter knocks on your door, click on the link in the description and get your supply of Power Pollen Nature Bee. Money back guarantee. Big thanks to Nature Bee for powering another episode of Bonafide.
In a world where voices are silenced,
Please.
one man refuses to lie down.
It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done.
He's been punted not once,
40 years they've been trying.
not twice,
You couldn't fire somebody if they were horrible, doing a terrible job.
but 3 times.
You're fired.
He doesn't tell you what to think, but gives you something to think about. Welcome to the Bonafide Podcast with Luke Boner. And he's not
Here we go.
done
Hold your ears, folks.
yet.
It's showtime.
Well, g'day, folks, and welcome to episode 42 of Bonafide with myself, Luke Boner, and all of you. Thank you for being so loyal. Thank you for sharing, and thank you for listening. Hopefully there's something for everyone in the Bonafide podcast. That's the intention today. Coming up, Scotty Phillips from the Motley Fool will discuss interest rates. We'll discuss immigration, the baby bonus, and a few other things as well. There's something for everyone. So stay with us. We'll go motoring with James Ward, the content director from drive.com.au, and we'll have some fun with Adam and the Mancave. We're going to meet Dags, a man with a massive Batman collection, and it's all for sale. That and a whole lot more coming up on episode 42 of Bonafide.
News updates.
Look at some of the news headlines that have tickled my fancy this week. What about this one? A Danish zoo is under fire for asking the public to bring in unwanted animals to feed predators.
At Aalborg Zoo in northern Denmark, the Circle of Life is getting some help by putting pets on the menu. They're asking for donations of healthy but unwanted chickens, rabbits, guinea pigs and even horses.
Any chickens or rabbits to spare? Denmark's Aalborg Zoo is seeking animals to feed to its predators after they've been euthanized, a plea that has sparked public backlash. We're looking for small livestock, no pets, Annette Sophie Warneck-Nutsorn has said, one of the zoo's managers. It can be, for instance, a chicken that doesn't lay eggs anymore. Predators usually catch prey of this size, so it's like the natural course, she added. The zoo has found itself in hot water since sending out the appeal on social media last week. Got a spare rabbit? A guinea pig? What about a dog you don't want anymore? There could be a predator that'll eat the dog. They will be euthanized. Come on. Talk about recycling. Stop wincing, Kelsey.
I just can't imagine anybody. I guess so. I don't know. Would farmers understand this maybe?
Oh, yeah.
I guess if they're going to die anyway, then it makes sense. But the logistics of transporting dead animals around just seems stinky and gross.
Well, I guess if you're hard up for money, look for donations. And if it can't be money, why not discarded pets?
Yeah,
I like
that's
the
so
idea.
weird.
Come
No.
on. Leave us your
There's something
thoughts.
weird about that.
The US Coast Guard has released a report calling Titan disaster a preventable tragedy. You across this?
The report shows it took the crew coordinating the Titan's dive more than 7 hours to tell authorities it was missing. The crew received final communication at 10:47 a.m. local time, seconds after the Coast Guard's Marine Board of Investigation determined the sub had already imploded.
Inadequate safety practices, deliberate efforts to avoid oversight, and a toxic workplace culture were among the factors that led to the 2023 implosion of the Titan submersible. The US Coast Guard said in a damning report that described the disaster as a preventable tragedy. The submersible was on a commercial voyage to explore the wreck of the Titanic when it disappeared in the Atlantic, leading to the deaths of all 5 people on board. The ensuing search captured headlines around the world. Remember this, it was in the news for days as it evolved from a potential rescue mission to a recovery operation. Eh?
Did you watch the documentary on this? It was honestly shocking that these people were allowed to operate a submersible. You could not pay me enough money to go down and see the Titanic. The Titanic is one of my hyperfixations. I know a lot about it. I find it very, very interesting. But that is like my worst nightmare, going to the bottom of the ocean at that depth.
I wouldn't go caving either.
No, I don't understand it.
Would you go up in a Richard Branson or a Elon Musk rocket ship to get into space?
Absolutely not.
Would you do that? Would you go into space?
No. That's
Really?
I would. You could not pay me to go into space.
I don't know. I'd be tempted to go space. 250,000 for 70 minutes, I think. You get
Absolutely not.
You wouldn't go to space?
No, I don't need to risk it like that. I don't know. I've just seen too many space disasters. I've watched, what's that movie? The one where they go up to, with Anne Hathaway in it?
Interstellar.
Yes. I've watched Interstellar too many times to want to go up to
That's
space.
the one with the big wave that comes.
Yes.
Oh,
we need to talk to Dr. Carl about I forgot the name of it, but how time operates differently in space because of how close they are to like black holes and stuff. It's so interesting. We need to talk to Dr. Carl about that because I find it very fascinating.
Yeah,
Still
I do
doesn't
too.
make sense to me though.
Put it on the Dr. Carl list. It's a very good question. Hey, look, this is sad news because I knew Cole Joy very well. The Australian music legend has passed away at the age of 89. He was born Colin Frederick Jacobson, and he was the front man of Cole Joy and the Joy Boys. He is also credited with discovering iconic Australian band The Bee Gees.
He was the first Australian rock and roll singer to have a #1 hit across the country.
Cole Joy had a number of successful hits, including Bye Bye Baby Goodbye, Goodbye Bye Bye Baby Goodbye, My Baby Goodbye. Remember that?
I honestly don't think I've ever heard it.
Anyway, he had a string of hits with the Joy Boys throughout the 1960s. I remember I was doing an outside broadcast at the Exodus Foundation one Christmas Day, and Cole Joy with a ukulele just turned up because he was listening to me on 2GB, and he sang Christmas carols with a ukulele, just an impromptu.
That would be fun.
He was a really good bloke. He was a really
I can
good
get behind
bloke.
that. Can you play the ukulele?
Well, it's a 4-string guitar. I used to be able to. Yeah.
Yeah,
I used to be able to. I'd have to get my chops back, but I could play it once, yeah.
Oh, maybe by this Christmas you can give us a ukulele Christmas performance.
Yeah, that shan't be happening. I'll see what I can do. Do you reckon the Logies have become irrelevant? I do.
I've never, ever watched them ever. I think TV's becoming a little bit irrelevant.
We only watch very little free-to-air TV. We watch Sunrise in the morning for the news, maybe the evening news, but most of our TV consumption is paid for.
That's what I mean.
We watch the shows we choose to. It's a bit like podcasting versus free-to-air radio, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I don't know. I've never gotten behind the Logies. I don't watch much free-to-air TV, and it just kind of seems like, kind of like LinkedIn, just like a wank fest.
I don't get LinkedIn either. I'm on LinkedIn and I don't even know why or how I got there. You did it.
I made a profile for you.
Why is LinkedIn important? We're getting off the track here. Anyway.
It tracks your professional career, and it's really just a place for you to brag about all the cool things that you've done, essentially. It helps when you're trying to find work. And now the shit thing is that now it's essential to find jobs. Like recruiters, workplaces, they will look at your LinkedIn profile, probably not for the trucking industry, unless you're up in corporate. But yeah, I hate it. I hate
So you put me on
posting
LinkedIn because you
LinkedIn.
thought I was looking for work. God love you. Anyway, back to the Logies. Lynn McGranger took out the gold Logie for 2025. The Home and Away stalwart also won the Logie for Best Lead Actress in a Drama. ABC comedy Fisk was the biggest winner for the night, taking home all 5 of the awards they were nominated. I love Kitty Flanagan. I love Fisk.
Yeah, she's great.
Pity one of the stars of that, Marty Sheargold, left Triple M under such a black cloud, isn't it? It's hard to watch it now that you know Marty Sheargold's thoughts towards women's sport.
I know.
But anyway.
But that's why you don't put comedians on radio.
What am I doing here? Exactly.
You're not a comedian by any circumstances.
Jimmy Barnes singing Working Class Man. Welcome to the 1985 Logies. I'm your host, Greg Evans. Working Class Man, I can't think of a song that has less of a connection to the people in the room tonight.
What are your thoughts? Are the Logies irrelevant? Do you watch free-to-air TV, or is most of your consumption taken up with what you pay to watch and what you choose to watch? Let us know. Luke Boner, radioguy@gmail.com. Okay, time to hear what you guys have to say. This is from Gary. Let's listen.
And now the end is near, and I am in tears, Luke. I really am. Hey, I reckon we should all do a huge lunch. Do it for charity.
Gary wants to do a huge lunch.
I think we should.
We have listeners from all around Australia, let alone all around the world. How are we going to do this? We could do it on Zoom.
Zoom, yeah.
Yeah, therefore I don't have to pay for it.
What charity would you do?
Wounded Heroes.
Oh, of course, yeah, of course. Dumb question.
Good on you, Kelsey. Got this message from Susie. Hi, Luke. In one of the largest shopping centres in the northern suburbs of Hobart, 3 shops and a large food court have closed in the last month, and they've been turned into restrooms. Not sure if the centre can't refill the shops or why this is happening. It is weird having 2 restrooms in the middle of a food court where there's already plenty of seating. I was wondering if the cost of running these shops has gotten too much, just like the lady spoke of last night. When they seem to go overnight. She's true. Isn't it funny when you go to your local shopping centre and all of a sudden there's a white board and you go and you think to yourself, what used to be there again?
Yeah.
You know that in our shopping centre, you know what's gone after all these years? The Pandora shop.
Oh, but that's, you know that there's
But that's another jeweller's now. But I often thought, is this Pandora thing a fad? And when's it going to run out? And it went for years. I thought, oh, well, it's here to stay. It's the Pandora shop's gone.
Well, let me give you some insight into that. And I'm just drawing from my memory here. So you can go read more about it. But the owners of Pandora, like the big owners of Pandora, they actually have been pushing franchisees out because they want to re-own all of the Pandora stores. So heaps of Pandora stores have closed all across Australia, not because the franchisees want to go, but because they're being like forcibly removed. I can't remember all the details. Go look it up, but that is definitely something that we're seeing across the board.
I thought when Pandora, the little charms that go on the bracelets, isn't it?
Yeah, I really like them.
Yeah. Well, I thought, that's a fad.
No, I like them. You can get me one if you want.
Anyway, this particular listener sent 2 photos as well, and yeah, it does look very, very empty. Let us know. Shops closing down in your shopping centre, what's replacing them? Or are they just big cavities now where they put cushions and say, here's a parent's restroom?
Surely it doesn't look good for like the centre management to have empty shops everywhere.
No, it doesn't. And centre management, that's another topic we can take up with. I'd like to talk to retailers who are coming to grief with their centre management. They can be very ruthless. You sign on to have a shop in a shopping centre. You pay a fortune per square metre for your shop, and yet Woolies, Coles, Aldi at ours, they get it for free because because they claim they draw in the customers for the other smaller retailers to enjoy.
I mean, it is kind of true. It's kind of true.
Anyway, centre management. Do you know centre managements in some shopping centres, they monitor your till electronically, so you can't take cash. And if you don't reach your sales projections, they can kick you out. And if you exceed your sales projections, they can put your rent up. I would never in my life own a shop in a shopping centre. Never, ever, after some of the stories I've heard.
The worst kept secret in our industry, and it is a boil that needs to be lanced, is the use of ABNs, sham contracting.
Got this message from Bradley in response to our chat with Senator Glenn Sterle. He is spot on regarding ABNs. I work with internationals that are happy to be exploited and exploit the system. I'm a commissioned contractor, and another guy is too. 8 others are internationals on $25 an hour. And Luke, they pay the guy that gets them the work $2 or $3 an hour. It is disgusting. We got this message from Neil. Here is a topic for further investigation. Algae bloom that is running rampant on the South Australian coastline. It's killing marine life and people's livelihoods. Now, Neil also sent us some more information about this. Because it's inside 3 nautical miles of the state, it is a state-based issue, meaning it does not tick the box to be a natural disaster. Isn't that interesting? We're going to look into this a bit further and try and get someone to explain to us why this is happening. But for any of our South Australian listeners, I would love to hear from you. Has this impacted you? How has it impacted you? Should it be declared a natural disaster? I tell you who'd know the answer to all of that. David Littleproud, former Minister for Agriculture. He would be all across this, Kelsey. Let's put that to David Littleproud next time we have him on. Shall we do that?
Absolutely. What is algae bloom?
Well, it's when they say it's because of climate change. It's when the water becomes too warm and basically algae breeds on top of it. And this is a real problem on the Barrier Reef. It was.
Yeah.
And it has also a lot to do with chemicals that find their way into the water. But basically, look, we'll find out from Littleproud, but basically I think it's when the top layer of water, the top meter, becomes too warm and it breeds algae.
Yeah. I'm just looking at some photos of it now, and I mean, it does look terrible. What was once colourful and bright coral, and this is in South Australia, is just covered with a thick green muck, and all of the colour is just like completely gone from it.
It's really bad, isn't it?
It does look like there has been an assistance package, $14 million, but they're still refusing to designate the event as a natural disaster.
Well, it's interesting to hear from Neil that because it's inside 3 nautical miles of South Australia, it's a state-based issue. I would have thought that if that algal bloom goes into Victoria or WA, wouldn't that then become a national disaster? Why not jump on it now before it gets any worse?
Yeah. 400 species of marine life have died. That's a lot.
Let's put it to Littleproud. If you've got something you'd like to say, send an email to lukebonerradioguy@gmail.com or leave us a voice message. Coming up next on Bonafide, let's look at the world of finance and other issues. Can Australia really support another airline, Koala? Haven't we learnt our lesson? We'll talk about that, interest rates, immigration, and a possible baby bonus. That's coming up with Scotty Phillips from the Motley Fool. Well, it's been a while since I've spoken to my mate Scotty Phillips from the Motley Fool because he's been overseas. No excuse. You can still do the Bonafide podcast from overseas. We did it from my daughter's wedding in Bali, but he's back with me now. Scotty, good to see your face, mate. Welcome back to Bonafide.
Luke, thank you. Great to be with you, mate. I miss being with you. Just for the record, though, I wasn't overseas. I was interstate, mate. I went up north and spent a whole lot of time in the Northern Territory via Queensland. So not quite as extravagant or exciting as being overseas, but had a fantastic time. By the way, congratulations to you and your daughter on the wedding too, mate.
Yeah, it was a lovely day. But tell me about your trip. Where'd you go? Why'd you do it? What'd you see?
Mate, so every winter for the past few years, we've gone outback somewhere. Some combination of just wanting to see this magical country we have. I've got a young bloke who's now 12 and there's only a limited time we get with him. So kind of just love the idea of getting out into the outback in some way, shape or form. This time I took some long service leave. Actually had 5 weeks off. We drove from a barrel south of Sydney where I am. We drove all the way up to Darwin. The family flew in. I spared them the 45-hour drive. And then we drove from Darwin. We did Kakadu, we did Arnhem Land, and we did Litchfield National Park, and then drove home from there. So it was just a spectacular time to be away. By the way, mate, it's pretty cold where I am. So going to 30-degree temperatures was also a pretty good hook. But yeah, mate, we have such a wonderful, wonderful country. I've seen a decent amount of it so far, but you never quite get it.
I'd like to think I've seen a fair bit of our country, but I haven't been to any of those places, and I feel ashamed. And here I am, a proud Indigenous Australian, and I've seen more of overseas than I have of my own country. I lived for many years in regional Australia, but that was regional New South Wales. But I haven't been to Kakadu, and I feel dreadful. And I would love to get on the Indian Pacific or the Ghan.
Yes.
But you know why I haven't? I've been lured to overseas, especially Asia, because it's so bloody cheap. Australia is not a cheap country to visit.
It's not, mate. And the thing, I mean, we did a lot of camping, right? So that's even more complex again, because you've either got to drive up there or hire something up there. It's bloody expensive. And the price of petrol alone, or diesel in my case, doing I think 12,008 kilometres in total over that 5-week period. Most getting there and back, of course. But yeah, mate, it is bloody expensive. Look, it also depends how many people you're taking, by the way. The bigger your family, if you put them all in one car, you got to defray the cost rather than buying 4 or 5 plane tickets. But yeah, it is expensive. I've been pretty lucky, mate. I lived in London for a year. I've seen some of the US a couple of times with work, so I kind of had a chance to do some of that. I've got to say, I will do overseas trips again. My wife's keener than I am on going overseas, but there's so much more of Australia left to see. I feel more of a pull to do some of that stuff. Maybe Queensland next time, not sure what we'll do. But yeah, it is just such a magical country. By the way, Kakadu gets all the plaudits. Arnhem Land is obviously magical for its own purposes, particularly the Indigenous history and heritage there and the lived experience, people still there, obviously. But Litchfield National Park is an absolute, I reckon that was the highlight of the 3. And you don't...
Well, tell me about it. I've never been.
Just beautiful scenery, lovely Australian bush, untouched bush, some magnificent cliffs and swimming holes, mate, and waterfalls. That was the real draw for us. Some of the great swimming areas. I've got a 12-year-old. We travel with another family. They've got a 12 and 13-year-old. So, the swimming was big, and just a lovely place to relax. Litchfield's also just less busy. Kakadu, everyone knows Kakadu, everyone wants to go, and I'm glad we did, by the way. I'm not saying don't do Kakadu, but if I had to pick a highlight, maybe because our expectations were lower, I would definitely say Litchfield. But mate, the whole place is great. If you get a chance, and look, no, you shouldn't feel bad about not doing it, mate. There's a wonderfully big world, and we can spend a lot of time exploring all of it. But for me, really, really glad we did that trip.
I went to Uluru once, but I went as part of a media contingent. It was for a charity raising event for Westfield, wheelchair sports. And yes, so I went to Uluru, walked around it. We had dinner under the stars at Uluru, but it was on cream linen tables with a buffet and waiters and waitresses.
Wow,
and Crown Lagers. And we stayed at the Sails and the Desert Resort. So I didn't rough it. But you know what we did do? We played cricket, and at the Sails and the Desert Resort at Uluru, there was a cricket oval with a white picket fence.
Oh, wow.
And it's the only green thing you see from the sky because they water it. And we had 6 teams and people had to bid to it was a fundraiser.
Nice, yeah.
And we had 6 former Australian internationals, and they captained each team. So the stories around the fire at night were great. Dougie Walters was there, and
oh man, that's worth the price of admission.
And Greg Chappell,
nice,
was there. There's a whole list of them. But I didn't exactly rough it, so...
Still, how magical is Uluru, though, mate? Is beautiful, isn't it? It's incredible.
It really is. Hey, listen, Scotty, there's a lot I want to talk to you about. There's a lot that's gone on since you've been away. Our relationship with the United States, it's kind of up and down, and you and I talked about this before you left, how you've got to learn how to play Donald Trump. You've got to play the man as well as the ball, and it's a very, very difficult thing to juggle. Joe Hockey did a very good job. Believe it or not, Malcolm Turnbull did a reasonable job. Kevin Rudd's obviously not the bloke. And I've often said, I don't think diplomatic posts should be politically appointed. I think it should be the best person for the job. And the old saying, keep your friends close but your enemies closer. Did we dodge a bullet with the latest Trump tariffs, and did our olive branch with the beef imports kind of help us along that way?
So we did. You know what? So we did dodge a bullet.
Take us through it.
Yeah. So look, firstly, the bottom line is we've got a 10% general tariff for all Australian exports into the US or imports in the US from Australia. Still, by the way, that higher amount, 25 on steel and aluminium. So that's overriding that one. And then Donald Trump had announced there would be more tariffs unveiled in early August, or another announcement of increased tariffs around the world. And we feared that 10% might go to 15 or 20%. In fact, earlier of the week it was announced, 1st of August it was announced, the headlines were that there was talk we may have that increased tariff. So here's the thing about Donald Trump, and here's what's really important to remember. We feel like we got away with it, right? The tariffs didn't go up. Gee, that's good, which is true. The other thing, though, is we've still got 10% tariffs. So did we win? Did we lose? Did we do well? Did we do badly? On one hand, we've done as well as any country around the world. And so realistically, that's a really, really, really good outcome in a relative sense. And frankly, compared to what it could have been. Some countries are 30, 40% tariffs now. So did we do well relative to where we could have been? Yes. Is it a good deal? No, because we're still having that 10% tariff for no ostensibly good reason. There is no justifiable reason to have 10% on Australian exports to the US. We're not, we don't have, tariffs on the US products. We have one of the freer trade arrangements around the world. There is no good reason in any sort of natural justice or trade-based reason other than Trump wants to do it. And so we got what we got. But as you say, a very good one. Did we get away with it because of the beef? Probably yes. I mean, the government say, oh, no, we did it because the biosecurity advice is we could afford to remove those trade barriers. It just happened to take place 10 days out from Trump's tariff decision. Now, I don't know if they think we're mugs. They probably do. Or maybe we're all supposed to see through it and kind of nudge, nudge, wink, wink. We can't admit it, but you all know it. Whatever your view is on that, it seems very, very likely that it was part of the same story. Meanwhile, by the way, the big supermarkets and fast food chains have said we're not taking American beef. So it may be symbolic. And frankly, to your point about playing the man and the ball, if Trump feels like he got something, but we didn't give up much to do it, that's actually a pretty good deal from our perspective, right? We didn't give up anything meaningful. The PBS, the Pharmaceutical Benefits Scheme, is really what they'd love to go at. And by the way, as we record this, reports that Trump is considering tariffs of up to 250% on pharmaceuticals globally imported into the US. So this is not the last time we'll talk about tariffs, unfortunately, Luke. We got a decent deal. We got the best deal that was going. But still, it's going to cost our exporters, it's going to cost economic growth, and it may well still mean a US inflation and or recession, and that might have ramifications for us.
A couple of other things I wanted your opinion on. We'll get to former Prime Minister John Howard suggesting that the Treasurer Jim Chalmers reintroduce a baby bonus to try and encourage Australians to breed. You and I have talked about this. I've talked about it with the millennial who produces this program. I mean, a lot of people in her age group, children just not on the horizon because of the cost of living. And they have careers they want to pursue, and they are a long way from affording a property, especially in Sydney. Kelsey and her fiancé Nathan do. They've got a beautiful apartment in inner city, and they got it, I think, for the right price, and it's only going to go up. But a lot of people that age, children just not on the horizon. So there's more talk about increasing immigration, but where are we going to house these people? This is because we have that problem as well. So let's talk about the housing crisis and the rental crisis. I see this week that housing in Sydney has this is standalone houses, not units, but the price is still on the increase, 0.06%. It's an increase. So without more stock, the price of houses are still going to continue to rise, aren't they? But we don't have the work power to build them. What's the answer?
How long have you got? So let's be very clear. Neither of the major political parties want to tackle this at all. They have no interest whatsoever for self-interest or political reasons, or maybe they're the same thing on behalf of lobby groups and other things. No one is trying to... Here's the thing. Like, economics has no iron laws, right? Science has laws, maths has laws, economics has ideas. The closest economics gets to a law is supply and demand. At a given level of supply, if there is an increase in demand, prices go up. At a given level of demand, if supply goes up, prices go down, and all those different permutations. It is just, I said, it's not quite a law, but it's bloody close. So why are we where we are, and how do we get here? The reality is, mate, that you are absolutely right. When a government won't sit down and say, right, we need to join up population policy, and that is a combination of natural births and immigration, and emigration, by the way, people leaving, with supply of housing and all the things that govern supply, we're going to be left to the mercy of the market. Now, we know what the building approvals are. We know what the opportunity to build is. You've already made the point. The government's announced this 1.2 million houses over 5 years. We are miles behind. Sydney, apparently, New South Wales is going to fall 137,000 houses behind based on their own numbers. If that's even slightly representative of the rest of the country, that's going to cost 500,000 houses short of the 1.2 million home target. It is a nonsense that the government will say, we will have, and let's talk about population per se, but household formation is what it's about. How many new households are there going to be that are created by people leaving home, arriving in the country, all those marriage, separations, all that kind of stuff? How many new households are going to be created? Do we have enough houses, dwellings for those people? No. We literally don't. We have massive housing stress. We have massive rental stress because we have demand growing at a faster rate than supply. And it is an absolute nonsense, mate. And it drives me nuts because whatever you think the solution is, and there's a range of them, right? And I'll talk about mine in a sec. But whatever you think the solution is, it's not being implemented. I can have a view, you can have a view. Hey, I think we should do X. You think we should do Y. Great. Let's at least do X or Y. The government is literally saying, no, nothing to see here. Yes, we care about housing affordability. Yes, we care. Yes, we care. But guess what? We're doing absolutely nothing. And the maths, you can't choose, the old line, you can choose your own opinion. You can't choose your own facts. You can't choose your own maths either. The maths will be the maths at the end of the day. And so really honestly right now, mate, let's start with housing and get back to baby bonus. I have a very, very, very clear view, very strong view, that supply is a slow burn benefit or improvement, even if we can make it happen. Whether we can is an open question, by the way. Let's say we can. Between design, approval, finance, commencement, and finalization of construction is probably 3 years generously. So between now and 2028, let's assume we're going to do something about supply. Let's assume we have got a plan to fix it and it's going to be fixed by 2028. In the meantime, having population grow at a rate faster than supply for the next 3 years increases housing stress, increases or decreases affordability, increases homelessness. We've got to stop growing population while we let supply catch up. It is just an absolute no-brainer. Now, the pollies won't touch it for fear of being called racist or xenophobic, because they want to keep the business lobby on side, because they have this ideology about immigration, whatever those things are. And people can cast their own aspersions based on their own political leanings. I have no political leaning other than I want good policy. It is very, very clear to me that while we know what the supply is going to look like, we can trace it over the next 3 years. It is, we literally know. There's only so many builders. There's only so many approvals. There's only so many commencements, only so many completions. So we know what that's going to look like. I use the example all the time, mate. Let's say you've got a sports stadium. It's like with sport, the stadium can hold 40,000 people. And we've got plans. In 4 years' time, we'll have 50,000 seats in the stadium. So great, good, that's good. And then, so how many tickets are you going to sell this year? Oh, no, 35,000, 40,000, 45,000. Well, hang on, if you're going to sell more tickets than you got seats, what are you expecting people to do? You know you can't seat them. The first thing you do is stop selling tickets. Now, it's not that hard. Now, this is not, I want to be really, really clear, Luke, because I get tagged with this on Twitter all the time. It is not racism, it's not xenophobia on my behalf. I don't care who they are. Black, white or brindle, New Zealanders, Kiwis, Bangladeshis, Vietnamese, Chinese, Indian. I don't care. I genuinely don't care. The simple reality is, if your stadium's full, you stop selling seats and tickets until you have more seats to put those backsides in. And we don't have that. So stop selling tickets now, build the extra seats, then let's have the conversation. But until we do, we have house prices going up, we have homelessness going up, housing affordability falling, and this is under a purview of a government that has the opportunity, and an opposition, by the way, to make changes right now to stop that happening. They simply choose not to, and it's absolutely maddening, and your listeners should be curious.
It's a difficult one because while the price of houses continues to increase, for young people trying to get into the market, that's bad news. But for people like me who don't have a mortgage and my house is my super, I want the thing to go up. And I also want people from any country to be able to put their paddles up in the air up the driveway when it goes to auction. I want to see as many paddles as possible.
Exactly. But here's the thing, mate.
It's selfish, isn't it?
Well, yeah, except you're a dad, right? I reckon, I'm pretty sure, you don't want your house price to halve. But if I say to you, look, here's the thing. The house is worth what it's worth now. It's not going to change for 5 years. But in 5 years, it'll still be worth what it's worth now. In the meantime, your kids' salaries will increase over time. Their housing affordability will increase. I don't know many boomers who would say, no, I don't want that. I don't know many old exes who would say, no, you know what? I would rather my kids have a hard time just so I can make another, 5-10% on my house. And I think that's the thing. Someone mentioned to me the other day, if the trade-off is your house won't go up, but the bank of mum and dad will be closed for business, that's probably still a good deal. So you're right, mate. I think selfishly we all think, I'm the same. I want my house price to go up as well, right? Here's the other thing, though. If it goes up and then I want to sell and buy something else and that's gone up as well, I don't really benefit from that.
I'm in the same boat.
Right? It's incremental. So if you want to downsize at some point and the downsized property goes up at the same rate as your current house, well, there's no benefit. We'll feel richer because the number goes up, but our buying power doesn't change when we want to buy the next house or down trade to a unit or whatever we're going to do. I get it. And I know people want prices to go up and I get that sense too. But the reality is if the whole market rises, you're not really better off when you've got to change your dwelling. In the meantime, your kids, someone else's kids, their kids eventually get priced out of the market. It is a difficult conversation to have, but I don't think it's a difficult one if governments want to, and frankly oppositions, and it probably needs to be bipartisan, otherwise they'll just mess with each other. But if they genuinely want to fix this, it's really fixable, very explainable, very achievable. It's the political will.
Did the baby bonus, the Costello-Howard baby bonus, one for mum, one for dad, one for the country, I remember it.
Yeah, me too.
Did it work? Was it a good idea? Did some people have babies just for the money?
Yeah, probably all three. Was it worth it? Yes, probably. It gets philosophical pretty fast. Do I care whether an Australian-born baby arrives or whether someone arrives from overseas? On some level, we all feel a bit national, a bit patriotic, and, is it good for more Australian babies to be born, I suppose? Do we really care if they are, as a New Zealander turns up or an Australian born here? Probably not if they want to be part of the country. You get those conversations about, what is a real Australian and stuff, and that gets, again, very xenophobic real quick. So I want to address it, but then kind of, or at least acknowledge it and then move on. So there's that bit. We've known about the baby boom for ages, right? We know that Costello, and the greatest thing he did, probably the greatest, he did a generational report where he basically said, hey, hang on, all these boomers are going to retire at some point, and then what do we got? And so
we're running out of a tax base. And in 18 years, we need a tax base. We need people working and paying tax to pay for infrastructure.
Correct. And the best thing about the baby bonus relative to immigration is that it changes the average age of the population. I haven't seen the numbers really recently, Luke, so I'd have to double check it. But not too long ago, I might say maybe 2 years ago, maybe, the average age of immigrants was about the same as the average age of Australians. In other words, immigration wasn't solving that population distortion by age, the demographic distortion. So having more kids, and again, they can be immigrant kids or local kids, but you want to have a lower age of new population, whether it's a birth or an arrival. They need to be younger than the average Australian to make that bulge or start trying to address that bulge. So that is absolutely true. So in that sense, it was worth it. Yes. Did it make a difference? Probably. Did it make someone who didn't want a kid have a kid? No. Did it tell people, hey, you know what? You want to have a kid anyway. Here's some cash that'll help you cover maternity leave, cover the cost, cover all that sort of stuff. Is that worth it? Yeah. So did it help? Yes. The level could be probably argued. How much did you need to pay? How much should we have paid? How much difference did it make? I don't think we know. You can't really know for sure. But I think, it worked to the extent it was supposed to work and do what it was supposed to do. And the best thing about it was it changed the demographic structure a little bit of the country. And that was positive as well. The fertility rate in Australia was absolutely bottoming out. By the way, worse in much of Europe. The Western world is going to start to see population shrinking real fast. With the exception of immigration, we already are. I think the average fertility rate is something like 1.6 kids per woman. 2.1 is the replacement rate. Why? Well, 2.1 rate, man and a woman, generally speaking, having kids. I know there's exceptions, but on a national average. So if a woman has two, it's one for her, one for the dad. That makes sense, right? That covers it. 2.1, because unfortunately we see mortality before people have kids. So the 0.1 effectively allows for that. At 1.6, without immigration, the population shrinks in Australia. So you either say, let's increase the fertility rate. That's where immigration is. Here's what's great about immigration, look. It's a superpower. We get a whole lot of people who come. More people want to come than do come. So we get to say, great, we'll have the best and brightest. We'll pick and choose. We can build the country with the people that we want based on whatever criteria we set. They should improve the country if we get that right? Because you're the best and brightest from everywhere saying, I want to come to Australia. So awesome. Let's pick from the smorgasbord. So we've got a great opportunity to use immigration really sensibly. We don't want the population to shrink. I don't know if we want it to grow necessarily. It's a whole other conversation. But a baby bonus would absolutely help change the demographics. The problem, here's where I do have an issue with the baby bonus, Luke, and this goes back to housing. We have housing that is stupidly expensive, and rather than fix that, we say, here's a couple of grand. It is the proverbial kiss-off, right? It's the equivalent of the banks. You know when the banks do their cashback mortgages? They say, here, come and pay our ridiculously high interest rate, but we'll give you $1,000. And people fall for it. So maybe cynically it's worth it. But you want people to have more kids, give them affordable housing. Make the cost of living lower, actually deal with the fundamental problem rather than trying to paper over it with a bit of a sweetener, a bit of a one-off gift to pretend things are okay. So I don't think John Howard's necessarily wrong in that people need more financial support to enable them to have kids if they want. It's a solution, but it's of the Band-Aid variety. Far better to solve the symptom in the first place and allow people to have kids based on their ongoing cost of living rather than a one-off cash bonus.
If you are going to hand over, what was it before, 5,000?
I want to say 3, but it was something like that, yeah.
Anyway, if you are going to hand over cash because you're having a baby, should that money be monitored? Back in the day, I remember when I was doing talkback radio, you were getting reports that people were spending the money on cigarettes, alcohol, lotteries, poker machines. Should that money go into an account, and should you only be able to use that money on groceries, essential groceries, baby formula, nappies, whatever? Should the money go into a special account, and should it be monitored on how it's spent?
By the way, quickly, we were both right. It was $3,000 originally, increased to $5,000. So you're right. I was right.
And I was right at the end.
Exactly, you're right. Yeah. You know what's funny, mate? It depends on what we think it's for. So let's think about economics as a study of incentives broadly. Let's think about the incentive of a baby bonus. It is to allow people to feel like they can afford to have the kid. And that's kind of all it's really about. It's not really about here's some money for low-income earners so that you can afford to do the things you need to have with a kid. The problem with any national program is it's going to have combinations of all that stuff. Now, if you say to me, look, Scott, here's $5,000 if you have a kid. I think, well, I was going to have a kid anyway. And so it's just another reason to do it. I'm going to use it for this reason. Whatever I use the money for, the objective has been met, which is I've had the kid, which is what they really want. They're not saying it's too expensive to raise a child and you can't afford the formula, so here's some money to pay for the formula. It's just straight incentive. It's a quid pro quo, right? If I give you $5,000, will you have a kid? Yes. Okay, well, here's the money. So in that case, no, you don't. If it is about the incentive to have the child in the first place, it doesn't really matter where the money goes. You put it anywhere. I think the other thing we know, unfortunately, though, is that some people who will be in dire straits. Remember, if you're offering people money, who's a good example? I don't know. I'm trying to think of who's still married to the billionaires at the moment. Let's take a billionaire of childbearing age. You give them $5,000 to have a kid. They'll take the money. They don't need the money to have the kid, but they'll take it anyway. So it's not really changing their behavior meaningfully. The incentive doesn't matter relative to their massive amounts of wealth. If you've got someone who's really, really, really struggling, maybe they're on welfare, maybe they're on super low incomes, minimum wage, you're offering $5,000, that's life-changing money. So will that encourage them to have a kid where they maybe shouldn't anyway because of personal circumstances or financial circumstances? Maybe. And that's where you do have that negative impact of, well, hang on, that brings the baby into a world that maybe shouldn't be, they can't afford to keep, maybe circumstances aren't great. So at that level, yeah, you kind of want to say, look, if you're not going to use the money responsibly, if you're going to bring the kid into a world who's not going to have a great life, by the way, plenty of rich people have kids in poor circumstances too, and they're mistreated. So let's not make it just about income. But yeah, you would probably say, in that circumstance, I'd love you to only use the money for the benefit of the kid, because that's kind of the point. Can you really do it reasonably? Does that have the effect incentive-wise? If you do that, the billionaire's got to put money into baby formula and groceries. Are they going to care, bother, do it? I don't know. Sorry, man, it's a very unsatisfying answer, but I suspect, like most things, you want to be able to catch those people who would use it badly and fix them, but also let the incentive run for the rest of us who can say, well, it's worth it, I'll do it, I'll buy the cot, I'll buy the formula, I'll buy the baby seat, I'll get my kid off to a good start. You'd love that to be true. Does it have the incentive impact if you do that? Not quite as much. So it's a social question rather than a business one. There's two sides to it.
Okay. The Reserve Bank's about to bring interest rates down. That's what everyone's telling me. Your thoughts on all of this? Have we really got a handle on inflation? And can the government take credit for that? Lower interest rates.
Yep.
Is that going to have any effect on people getting into the market with real estate? Because if there are more people who think I can afford a bigger loan now that interest rates are down, that means more people will come onto the market, but we're still depraved for stock. And is it going to have any effect?
Exactly.
Your thoughts on all of this?
Mate, you've nailed it. I think you know the answers. So let's start with rates. By the way, everyone said rates were going to be cut last time too, and they weren't. So just a reminder not to trust the pundits who think they know. You know me, mate, I don't do forecasts because it's just madness. I don't know what the RBA is going to do. I can tell you what I think they should do, or I would do if I was the RBA governor. But trying to second guess their decisions, it's just silly, right? So yes, people think it's going to happen this time around. Probably, well, it's probably likely. But do you want to make a prediction? Well, we know from last time, no, it's not a good idea. But they probably will come down. Inflation is not as good as it looks. So it's good. So I don't want to just be the bad news guy. It's good. Headline inflation is 2.1%. Everyone says, wow, that's amazing. We're trying for 2 to 3. It's at the bottom end of the range. Of course, the RBA should cut rates. And by the way, everybody listening with a mortgage is like, I don't ever want to listen to your excuses, Scott. Just cut the rates for God's sake. So I get that too. Here's the thing, mate. I'm going to try and do this on an audio format, which is difficult, right? But the last 4 quarters make up the year's inflation. I know that's obvious, but let me just set this up. 2.1% is made up of 4 consecutive quarters. Now, again, it's audio and video, but let me give you the numbers. 0.2, 4 quarters ago. Then 0.2 again. Then 0.9 and 0.7. Now, there's some rounding there, but it's 2.1 in total. So 0.2, 0.2, then jump to 0.9, down a bit to 0.7. Next quarter, we're going to pick up a new quarter's worth of inflation data. And we drop off the one 4 quarters ago. So the first of those 0.2s will drop off, and we'll pick up another number. Now, if that number is not 0.2 or below, if it's 0.3, 0.4, 0.5, the annual inflation rate must go up. Because you drop off 0.2, you add back, let's say 0.5 for the fun of it, inflation will go from 2.1 to 2.4%. even if the quarterly number is lower from 0.7 to 0.5, and I'll stop the numbers in a second, the annual rate will go up, not down. So it isn't, well, if we get 0, then it's even better, right? But it's not going to. So the reality is we've got to be careful not to believe 2.1 is mission accomplished. Your question about, is it over? Have we won the war? No, for 2 reasons. One is that will happen. Secondly, we started by talking about tariffs. It is very, very, very likely that the US has increased inflation because everything imported into the US now costs more. Yeah. Now, sometimes there'll be substitutes. Most Americans will pay more because of tariffs. Now, that's only in America, but we know American inflation tends to be exported around the world. They're the world's largest consumer economy. They're the world's largest economy. Whatever happens in the US happens around the world, and that inflation might trigger a recession. So the RBA is looking at this going, well, inflation's okay here. Again, they probably will cut rates. I'm not suggesting they won't, but they're looking at this going, are we mission accomplished on inflation? Are we really done? I think in 12 months' time, hopefully we will be. But these tariffs, when they come into effect and then go up again, you've got to wait 12 months for that to cycle through prices. So there are some really significant risks on the horizon. On one side, the risk of inflation. On the other side, the risk of recession. So the RBA is going to try and navigate this. And by the way, we know that rates take about 6 months to have an impact. So not only do they have to work out what's going on now, they're going to crystal ball it and say, well, when we have our August meeting, we're looking at February 2026 and saying, what do we think the economy is going to be like by then? What support or contraction or restriction do we need to keep the economy growing, but keep inflation down? It's always their job, right? But it's really, really clear right now. So no, we haven't won the war. And then to your last point on rates and prices, you are 1,000,000% right, and it is absolute madness. We know that as soon as house prices got up for 6 consecutive months. What happened 6 months ago? The first rate cut. It is not a surprise. We know how this works. And again, we make the point of governments. They know this too. Every single economist they speak to will tell them, if rates fall, house prices will go up. You need to be prepared for that. And it's exactly what's happened. So you're right. If you currently got a mortgage, you're a little bit better off because your rate goes down, and that's great. If everyone wants to buy, they're paying, even though rates coming down says just affordability improves, it doesn't. It improves for those with a mortgage, and it makes it worse for those without one. Now, not even equal, but worse. Why? Because the price goes up. Then you lock that price in for 30 years worth of repayments. Even when rates then go up again, which they will at some point in the cycle, you're paying a higher rate on a higher price, so you're even worse off than if rates hadn't come down in the first place. And that's why, again, I can go into detail, we've talked for long enough already about this, but the government has tools it could use right now, literally right now, with a stroke of a pen, to stop that happening. They choose not to. I can't believe they don't know. I can't believe they don't understand. I have to believe, unfortunately, this is not a political view. The LNP is exactly the same. Neither of them really want to fix affordability for the reason you said before, which is, as John Howard famously said, no one ever complained my house price went up. That's become political orthodoxy, and the kids without houses can unfortunately fend for themselves because governments aren't interested in solving the problem.
Because that's the thing. If you have suddenly more buyers on the market,
who can afford to pay more each, by the way, so you've got both that combination together, absolutely.
We still have a shortage of stock.
Correct. It's exactly what's going. And so you got the same, we've got more demand in terms of more people and more dollars chasing the same supply. We started about talking about that, quasi-law of economics. Same supply, higher demand, more people, more price. What happens? Prices go up. And that's, by the way, that's capitalism. That's economics. What happens? The question is, do we let it happen unfettered with the social impacts? Home ownership is falling, mate. It used to be about 2/3, it's now about 62%, I think now, because kids just can't afford to buy, and so they become renters. If we want that as a country, that's up to us. I don't know anyone who thinks that's a good idea. We've got to actually pull our proverbial fingers out and do something about it.
So much to talk about. I wanted to talk in more detail. Maybe we can do it next time because I know you've got to go. But I wanted to talk about how unaffordable Australian tourism is for Australians. Now, it's great value for, say, Americans, who, by the way, if they're going to come all the way, anyone from the Northern Hemisphere who comes to Australia, they'll stay for a while and spend because it's a bugger of a place to get to.
Exactly.
And a bugger of a place to get home from.
Yep.
And the exchange rate is fantastic for people to come from the Northern Hemisphere. But gee whiz, Australian tourism for Australians is very expensive.
Yeah, and that's diesel prices, petrol prices. It's flights. We know we have a local duopoly. Speaking of government regulations, mate, airline ownership and routes are a whole different question. We can talk about another time. But the reality is that while ever Virgin and Qantas continue to knock out whatever player wants to join, Bonza's gone. By the way, Koala Airlines is the newest one, so they're going to launch next year.
I wanted to ask you about Koala Airlines. I mean, haven't airlines learnt their lesson yet? Tell me, what do you know about Koala Airlines?
What's fascinating? Nothing. And this may not get up. They have actually just said, we're launching in late 2026. We're not going to tell you anything because we don't want to give our competitors a heads up, but we're going to have a different business model. And that's literally as much as we know. They don't have any planes. They don't have their airworthiness certificate or air something certificate. They are a long way from launch. But so was Bonza when it launched and Virgin before that. So you can get there in time. And apparently it's backed by some airline executives with experience. So there's an old joke, mate. How do you make $1 million? You start with $1 billion and you buy an airline. And so that's kind of that's been the story of Compass, Mark 1, 2, and 3, Bonza, Ozjet. Rex is in administration still, by the way. We've talked about that before.
Yes.
But your point about tourism, whenever we have two big airlines with effectively duopoly control who are being very, very sensible on behalf of their shareholders, I don't believe for a second there's any cartel behavior. Now, if there is, by the way, it's illegal and the governments can look after that. But there doesn't need to be. If Virgin says, so here's the thing, if I put more planes on, I got more empty seats. I got to discount my prices to fill those seats, so why would I do that? And Qantas says, hang on, if I put on more seats, I got a lower price to fill those seats, so why would I do that? And for as long as neither of them add capacity, they both just charge as much as they can. Think about supply and demand. Here's the other thing, if you can artificially constrain supply, each acting in self-interest, nothing illegal, because they're just saying, in my own self-interest, I'm not going to add capacity unless I want to, unless I get more money out of it. As long as that remains true, and as long as they both do it in their own self-interest, it doesn't have to be illegal, and prices will still remain sky high. We pay way too much for airfares. We pay, I will say, too much for diesel. There's a question about kind of carbon pricing and stuff, which is a whole other conversation. But that's why things are so expensive, mate, as you rightly point out. It's a devilishly one. It's largely transport. Local accommodation costs are kind of high-ish, but haven't increased massively relative to other inflation. So the other thing, by the way, why is it expensive to travel at home? Because we've just been through 5 years of some sort of cumulative about 25% inflation. So the cost of doing something in 2020 is now 25% more expensive to do that same thing here. It makes the reality, and by the way, 25% on a higher base. So barley was always already cheaper than the Whitsundays. If they both go up 25%, the dollar increase for the Australian cost is much larger than the dollar increase for the overseas cost. So it actually makes us less competitive as well as straight out more expensive. That's a pretty big 1-2 punch. And that's why people are travelling outside the borders rather than inside them.
Yet Qantas have been accused of what they call slot hoarding, where they can actually own the positions that other airlines can use to take off and land from, but they don't use them. And that's been going on for a long, long time. Mm-hmm. And you wonder why there's a duopoly. Well, Qantas and the government have had this fantastic deal going for a long, long time. If the government is fair income on making air travel cheaper in Australia, they've got to introduce more competition. But they've been encouraging this duopoly, haven't they?
Sydney Airport has an 80-20 rule, Luke, where basically an airline can cut
80-20.
They can cut up to 20% of their booked slots without losing those slots in future. You're right. So here's the two things. Firstly, local competition. We've seen that with Rex. We've seen that with Compass. We've seen that with Bonza. We've seen that possibly with Koala. The other thing, by the way, we should be talking about is whether or not we allow international airlines to fly domestic routes. When we had a government-owned airline, you can make a case kinda for that. Realistically, these days, Virgin is privately owned, going to be listed on the ASX again now. Qantas is effectively privately owned, a public company, but not owned by the government, owned by individual shareholders, including lots of overseas shareholders. And you say to yourself, what is the public policy reason to make Qantas and Virgin protected species from over? Why can't Lufthansa fly from Sydney to Brisbane? Why can't Emirates fly from Adelaide to Perth? There's absolutely no reason other than an outdated idea that we need somehow to have a national carrier or a flag carrier. And we all love Qantas, right? We love the brand. We love the Still Call Australia Home, the Children's Choir. We've been there. I jumped on a Qantas plane back from the UK when I lived there years ago. And the feeling of just getting into a Qantas plane, it was completely irrational, right? But emotional and very real. So I get the emotional attachment, but policy-wise, is Australia better off? Are Australians better off having protection, giving Qantas and Virgin protection from international carriers? Of course not. There's absolutely no reason why they should be able to. And to your point as well, they should be able to hoard those slots they have got and block domestic carriers, alternative domestic carriers from flying the same routes. We are not benefited from this. We have some of the busiest airline routes in the world. The Sydney-Melbourne route, I think, is one of the top 5. I think that's right.
Yes, it is.
And yet you say, well, hang, we're protecting that from competition for reasons that somehow we say, well, Qantas is Australia's airline, so it should be protected. It's a nonsense, mate. I get people are emotive about it. I get way back in the day, do we want a so-called flag carrier? I mean, we don't have one now. We like to pretend it's true. Qantas is very happy for us to think that's true, but it's owned by private investors, a very, very large minority of those international investors, and they're getting a rails run because of some emotional throwback to the 1970s. So you're right, but things aren't going to improve until we actually make it competitive. The government's it's a sheltered workshop. The government is saying we will protect you from competition for reasons that, frankly, defy any sort of logic, or maybe they don't if you include the Chairman's Lounge memberships.
Chairman's Lounge, I can only dream.
Yeah, me too.
Just for example, because recent trip to Bali and the wedding. So let's just say Garuda has a deal, but you won't be able to fly direct from, as my daughter would call it, Denpasar. You're going to go to Perth, which is your first stop. Okay, and so why not let Garuda go from Denpasar to Perth to Brisbane, and then allow it to go from Brisbane to Sydney to Melbourne?
Of course, there is zero reason, mate. There is literally zero reason under any public policy basis to do it that way. People say, well, we need, just in case of times of war, we've got an Air Force. Well, we need an airline that help us in terms of during COVID. We paid Qantas to help us during COVID. We could have paid Virgin. We could have paid Garuda to do it. They would have happily flown planes from Indonesia to Australia to move people around if we needed that. These are not public assets. They are not particularly special assets in any meaningful sense. You're absolutely right. If I want to jump on a plane now, by the way, the other thing is global rules and local rules around airworthiness are enforced across the board. There was a time when Qantas was the safest airline, still is, but because it did something different. These days, the rules that apply to Qantas and Virgin are identical. Same as Garuda. Would I fly Aeroflot? No. But if they're getting their airworthiness certificates, if they have the appropriate maintenance, if they have the appropriate pilot training, a Garuda plane flying between Sydney and Brisbane or a Qantas plane flying between Sydney and Brisbane is effectively the same thing. They're commodities these days. You walk into a terminal, you jump on a plane, doesn't matter what paintings on the outside, you get to your destination safely and, I was going to say on time, probably late, but you get there safely. It makes absolutely no difference. There is zero reason why Australians should pay more for their airline tickets just to protect a plane with a red tail and a white kangaroo. As much as emotionally, I still love the idea, by the way. There's in my head, I'm fighting myself. There's the rational me saying it's ridiculous. The emotional me says, but I kind of love Qantas. They're not helping me. They don't deserve my loyalty, right? It's an abusive relationship of sorts if I love them and they don't love me back. But that's exactly what we've got. There is no reason. And to your point, by the way, let's really make it real. Whether it's about Garuda or Qantas, it's about the tourism operator in Brisbane or Perth or Darwin or Sydney who gets more travellers because they can afford to go, or they can afford to go more often. And so it's good for the Australian economy in a whole lot of reasons, not just the back pocket of the traveller.
I mean, you mentioned at the beginning of our conversation about koala, and you think the budget airline Bonza, right? 2024 collapsed April. Regional Express, as you mentioned, entered administration. Yep. And you think of Compass, Tiger. God, we can go back to TAA and Ansett.
Yes, that's right, exactly. And by the way, Compass Mark 1, 2 and 3, I'm pretty sure there were 3 compasses at different points in time. Yeah, it's a remarkably long and frankly full graveyard of airlines that wish they could and couldn't. And by the way, you know why they don't work? Because Qantas and Virgin drop their prices when the third entrant comes in. They starve the new entrant of cash flow. The new entrant has massive fixed costs that it can't meet. It goes broke, and airline prices go back up. When Rex left the capital cities, I think I'm right in remembering, I'm pretty sure it's almost exactly right, it's very, very close if it's not, ticket price went up 13% as soon as Rex pulled out. That's not a coincidence, right? That is literally the impact of no competition. And if it was just a case of, well, everyone gets to go, they couldn't compete, the strong survive, that'd be one thing. Probably still not great, but one thing. When it's a protected sector, that you can't have the Garudas, the Emirates, the Air New Zealands do domestic routes, it doesn't need to be Koala Airlines. I mean, it'll be internationally owned, probably foreign owned anyway. But I don't care if it's Air New Zealand or Emirates or Garuda or whoever it is. If we can get better, cheaper access at the same level of safety, at the same level of on-time performance, why would I care who owns the airline? I shouldn't, and I don't. But governments continue to protect.
Let me ask you this then: since Aldi opened, because I'm talking about duopolies here, Woolworths and Coles, Aldi. Because the Minister for War and Finance shops there, and she is tight. She says it is a lot cheaper, a lot cheaper and different, as the ad says. But why do still do the majority of Australians do their supermarket shopping at Coles and Woolies?
That's a great question. And this is, by the way, I talk about laws of economics. The most misapplied law of economics was humans are rational creatures. We are not. We are absolutely not. So the economists would have told you up until about 20 years ago, we will do what's in our best interest. Now, I've got to say, and by the way, the minister's right. I worked for the food companies years ago, mate. 15, 20 years ago now. And when Aldi first turned up, whenever it was, we actually did the test. We did a blind test in the office with our products and the competitor Aldi product, and it was as good or better in 9 out of 10 cases. And objectively, it wasn't a scientific set, but we just literally put them out, went, right, try this, try that, try the other. Yeah, give it a mark out of 10. 9 out of 10 times it was as good or better than the branded product. Now, why don't we do it? I'm the same. So why don't I do it? I want to go to Woolies, get my entire shop there. I mostly shop online from Woolies, a click and collect or delivery. So it's convenience for me is the answer. Now, economists might say, well, that's part of being rational. It's true to some degree. Would I save money if I went to Aldi for most of the stuff, then Woolies for the rest? Yeah, I really, really would. Should I? Yes. So I'm sitting here telling you I'm an idiot because I'm paying more than I have to for my groceries. But that's part of the answer. What I like about Aldi being in the market is it brought prices down. Here's the other thing, by the way. Why don't I shop at Aldi? I don't need to as much as I used to. Because the Woolworths brand, the Coles brand, their own brand, home brands, just the pure no frills home brand, but even the Woolworths Select or whatever the Coles version is, they came in and they are a bigger share than they ever have been because Aldi exists. And that's the benefit of competition, right? As a Woolworths shopper, I benefit from your wife shopping at Aldi because Woolies have dropped prices or introduced new products to meet that competition. We know in Woolies, their private label, that's their combination of their home brand and the brands that they own and sell in their stores, private label, they're growing twice as quickly as total supermarket sales. In other words, the share of sales of private label are continuing to increase over time, and that's a direct dividend of competition being in the market. And that's the equivalent back to the airlines of if you had a third competitor, you don't have to fly Koala because Koala exists, Qantas flights are cheaper. When Rex did the capital cities, I didn't fly Rex. I don't think I ever did. I might have done it once. I did, yeah. But other than that, I benefit from lower price on Virgin and Qantas because Rex existed. And that's where competition works. And the Aldi example is a perfect one of why we want a third or a fourth player. Costco at the other end of the scale, still really cheap, buy it in bulk, different type of shopping. But that combination of competitors means you get a better deal at Woolies and Coles, and you get a better deal if you shop at Costco and Aldi as well.
Yeah, but Aldi don't charge you a membership fee for the honour of shopping there. I can't believe the psychology behind that, but people have fallen for it. I've got to tell you, for someone who's worked in retail, I'm going to finish with this story for you because you will love this. Are you ready?
Yeah, go on.
So as someone who has worked in retail and knows probably a little bit about what goes on in the mind of a consumer.
Yeah.
And what do they call it? Impulsive shopping.
Yes.
That's why you've got the Kinder Surprises and the Chockies right at children's eye level at the checkout.
Yep.
And the magazines and that sort of stuff. And you go, while you're waiting for your shopping to be checked out, you're reading a magazine, something probably very, very reliable, like New Idea.
With a die, exactly, yes.
Yeah. Anyway. So anyway, she's come back with the shopping from Aldi. And I see something on the bench. I said, what the hell is this? And she said, that bloody aisle 3 at Aldi got me again. I said, what?
Go on.
What? And I will quote her. I'm going to show you what it is. So it sits on top of the stove.
Yeah.
And it's a grill plate. You can see the size of it.
I do.
You can see the size of it.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And I said, what the hell? And I'll tell you what she said, quote, I didn't even know I needed that. How did Aldi know I needed that when I didn't even know I needed that? Quote.
Yeah. Now that, here's the other thing. So we talk about rational people and competition, other things.
She's rational.
Right?
She's as tight as a fish is up, mate.
Yep.
She said, how did Aldi know I needed that when I didn't even know I needed that? And I wrote it down.
And here's the thing. She didn't and they didn't, but the human mind does these things. What Aldi's great at, Chemist Warehouse, by the way, in the pharmacy space, is exactly the same thing. They call it the bargain hunt. You go to Chemist Warehouse, it's super... JB Hi-Fi is the same. Handwritten signs, stuff everywhere. They create that idea of the treasure hunt, the bargain hunt, what's on special, I can grab that. And so you see it, and your rational brain actually is slower than your emotional brain. Your emotional brain goes, I could use that. Your rational brain then says, I do need that. How do they know? And that's the beauty of it, right? Is the connection is made before you even rationally think about it. Psychologists tell us that most of our rational decision making is actually the human brain rationalizing an emotional response we've already had, which is scary in itself, right? The psychology of decision making is fascinating. But you're absolutely right, and that's, here's the other thing.
It's true.
By the way, Aldi are making a lot of money off that, so they get you in to buy the cheap baked beans and the whatever else is, the tuna, and then you go, I'll grab one of those as well. Aldi have done both. They made you. Here's the beauty of this. Your wife feels great that she's got a great deal on a thing she thinks she wanted. And so Aldi's made the money. They've made more money than they were going to. They've cemented the idea of that as the discount place to be. They've got the money. Your wife feels like she's had a win as well. It's the old used car thing. You know when you walk into a car lot and they say, well, it's $19,990. And you say, oh, how about I'll give you 19 grand? They say, oh, all right, fine. You think, great, I got $1,000 off. The car dealer goes, I was going to sell it for 17 anyway. I've made money. You walk away literally both feeling like you've had a win because of the way you set up the conversation, you set up the negotiation. Same with Aldi. Your wife thinks she's had a win. Aldi thinks they've had a win. Sometimes it's a genuine win. Other times it's a psychology of both going, well, I walked away feeling happy. I walked away smiling. That's business 101.
Yeah, but Scotty, who goes into a supermarket to buy cat food, milk, bread, butter, baked beans, and comes home with an air compressor?
or a griddle. Or tent. I mean, the Aldi... The middle aisle Aldi is beautiful. It's so brilliant. And here's the other thing, by the way, people line up because they make it that bargain hunt, right? There's only limited stock in the stores. They don't promise to have more of it. You can't get it if it's not already there. So every week you go and think, I wonder what's on special. I wonder what bargain I can get. It's the equivalent of, you get something for $300 that was originally selling for $500. You say, oh, I spent $300 and I saved $200. Like, no, you didn't. You spent $300. You didn't save $200. But the psychology of, I got a deal, I got a bargain, I got this great thing I didn't know I needed, I paid not much for it, it's cheaper than I buy it elsewhere. It's a great deal. Like that.
Unbelievable.
It really is.
I tell you what, you really do get an idea of the homework that Chemist Warehouse does.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how well you know the central coast of New South Wales. We're going there again soon. And after you take the turn off to go to Gosford, because we're going to Avoca, and there is a huge Salvos. It's as big as a warehouse, and it's bright red, and it's in a fenced-off area. In that fenced-off area is a McDonald's with a children's playground and a Chemist Warehouse.
Ah, there you go.
There's a McDonald's, a Chemist Warehouse, and a huge Salvos.
I believe it.
Just interesting stuff. Scotty Phillips, always good to talk to you. Thank you so much. Tell the folks about Motley Fool.
Oh, mate, yeah. I hope just to have a chat, mate. But you can find us at fool.com.au. Follow me on all the socials. Look up Scott Phillips. You'll find me somewhere. I'm always opinionated and ranting, but best to catch me on the Bonafide podcast always.
Coming up, motoring with James Ward from drive.com.au. Time to talk motoring with our motoring mate. His name is James Ward. He is the content director for drive.com.au. He's always got something new to say, something fresh to say, and we always learn something. He's with me now. Welcome back to Bonafide.
Mate, this is the most exciting podcast that I take part in. Every other week. I look forward to our chats where I always have a good laugh.
Today, I want to talk to you about the diminishing ports available for electric cars.
Yep.
I want to talk to you about your thoughts on where the price of petrol is going. We're going to look at police cars in just a moment. And why is the FJ Holden the iconic Holden and not the FX, which is the first Holden manufactured in Australia, released by Ben Chifley, but it's the FJ that everyone talks about. We'll get to that and a few other items as we progress. Are you ready? Are you ready for the ride? Have you got your seatbelt on?
Strap in, as they say in the classics.
By the way, I saw a fascinating documentary on YouTube on the Ford GDHO.
Oh, yes.
And why it was made and why that is the holy, holy grail of Ford. It's $1 million you'll get for them now.
Oh, yeah.
The GTHO. I thought it was an ugly, boxy thing.
I know, but it was the fastest production sedan in the world. And it's one of those things that it doesn't kind of matter what to have a superlative claim like that, to be the best at anything, to be the pinnacle of anything, it just trumps everything else. So to say Australia built at its time the fastest road-going sedan as a production car, that's why this thing has, yes, okay, it's got racing heritage, it's got all that sort of stuff, but it was iconic. And I think those kind of landmark moments in Australian motoring history, and it reminds me, and we'll talk about it in coming weeks, because coming up, I think it's in September or October, there is an auction coming up that is one person's collection of, if you collect your, I don't know, like the kids and their Pokemon cards, right? Like, this is the ultimate collection of Australian motoring icons is going under the hammer later this year. So this is your chance to get, well, and it will go for some pretty silly money, some of these things, but it's all the big name stuff that we've all thought of and dreamt of, from a Blue Meanie to the VNSS Group A to Fords to all sorts of things. It's kind of exciting to see that there's still a huge collector market for these iconic Australian cars.
There was something else I watched, and we'll go into it in more detail on another podcast, James, and that is the racing brilliant mind of Harry Firth. And when he was running the Holden dealer team, how that dealer team came together, what Harry Firth's influence on all of that was. He found Colin Bond and Peter Brock, found them when they were kids doing nothing. And look at the success that Holden had with both Colin Bond and Peter Brock. And Peter Brock's exit from Holden over the polarizer. Yeah. Shall we go into that in weeks to come?
Look, I would love to, because you can buy, they pop up every now and then on like eBay and Facebook Marketplace, people who have the energy polarizers that were in the car. And for those listening who don't know, this is the wooest thing that ever happened to cars in Australia. And it's basically a box that was it was connected to Earth and I think the negative battery terminal, but it was it was a box with crystals in it. And it was supposed to make the car perform better. And it's like, look, I love that people do that and sort of, have that as part of their life. And it's great for spirituality and feeling good about yourself, but it has no bearing on how a combustion engine works. However, Peter Brock thought otherwise. And for obvious reasons, the powers that be at Holden said, you know what, Pete, maybe you should go and do something else for a while, because this is really our jam.
Because he was charging an extra $3,000 or somewhere thereabouts for a car that had a polarizer in it, and they couldn't scientifically prove that it did anything, so they felt they couldn't justify charging people for it.
And but here's the thing, and this is where the woo science comes in, and I do quite like this. You can't prove that it does anything, but you can't prove that it doesn't do something, and it's the ultimate negative. It's is that a bit like saying, does God exist? This is it.
Does God exist?
We can't prove yes or no, right? So you can take either side. But look, if you have a car with so it would have been an HDT Holden, because that's what they were going in. They were the Brock cars, like the Director and a couple of the Group A's.
It was
if you've got a car with an energy polarizer, reach out, because you can find the instructions on how to mount it, the proper sticker kit. There are people that do sell them, but this is the ultimate of Australian performance mods, and that does absolutely nothing except it increases the value of your car, Luke. If you have, and here's the wild thing, if you have a genuine energy a polarizer, Peter Brock energy polarizer on your car, that car is worth more than without one. So, maybe the old Brocky knew what was happening in the long run.
I'm just looking up now.
You're going to buy one, aren't you?
See, there's one for sale.
Yeah, there'll be one for sale. It's like the people who put things in there's always that guy that says, if you put these crystals in your petrol tank, you'll get better thing. Hot tip, no, you won't. But if you believe that and it makes you feel better, who am I to judge?
Okay, I've got a HDT VL polarizer box decal. It's just a decal.
Just the sticker.
$38. I can't find a polarizer for sale.
Mate. They pop up every now and then. There's not a lot of them, but they do pop up. But this is it. The fact that a sticker is worth $40. That would be a regular sticker. That's a reproduction sticker. That is not an original sticker. So this is wild. But anyway, I think we should. Okay. We should have, maybe we have our woo special. Maybe around Halloween we talk about all the crazy woo science that people say. If you do this to your car, if you what was it? There's things that magnets in your fuel tank, and all this kind of stuff that's supposed to increase the performance of your car, that no, it doesn't.
The little rubber strip that used to hang down at the back of the car was supposed to earth the car and get rid of car sickness.
Earthing the car, that's it.
You remember the rubber strip that used to dangle on the road?
Yeah. Oh, God. Look, we tried some things.
James, in our last chat, we were talking about horns. Remember that? James, you gave us some audio of Grenadier horns.
Yeah, so this is the Ineos Grenadier. So this is the 4x4, the English 4x4 that's new in market. It looks like an old Land Rover, but it's a modern-ish 4x4 that's got BMW engines. It's really kind of cool. But it has a polite horn. So you've got a normal, in the middle of the steering wheel horn.
Yeah.
But also on the steering wheel, there's a little red button that is your polite, to let pedestrians or cyclists move. And they're two different horns. There you go. That's a proper horn.
Ah.
A little noddy pup, just to sort of say, hey, cyclist, I'm not going to mow you down in my 2.5-ton 6-cylinder diesel SUV today, but, maybe you should move a little bit to the left.
There you go. A little polite horn. I like the idea. It's up there with my thank you wave day, which we're going to work on.
Yeah, now we need to pick a date is the thing. We need to be better than the whole Australia people who complain but never come up with a solution. We're solution oriented. We're going to pick a date for the National Thank You Wave Day, and we'll get it out there. You do it on Sunrise, I'll do it on Today, and we'll get a national campaign to make Australian roads more polite.
All right. Well, I'm going away for a few days. I'll be back next week. You and I will talk on the phone.
Yeah, we'll come up with a date. We'll make it the right day.
And we'll get it together. National Thank You Wave Day. It's my idea, folks. Leave it alone. I'm going to get it there.
This is it. We'll be the heroes that Australia deserves.
Folks, let me tell you why I don't go into winter without power pollen. We all know how run down you can feel at this time of the year. Low energy, colds, and you just feel, Well, power pollen's been in my routine for over 20 years. And you want to know why? It works, and it comes with a money-back guarantee. But it works. It's not just bee pollen. Nature Bee has this special process that makes it absorbable. It's called potentiation. Look it up. It means your body gets all that good stuff fast, more energy, better immunity, and a real lift when your battery's running low. So if you're staring down another long, cold season, give your body the fuel it needs. Do what I do. Head to the link in the show notes and grab yours today. Money back guarantee. We got this email from Richard since our last chat. I was listening to your podcast on ex-police cars. I live in New South Wales and have a 1977 ex-police Charger.
Cool.
It has a 318 V8, 5.2 litre engine.
Was that the Fireball V8 in the Chryslers?
I don't know. I have restored it, and it gets dressed up as a police car for police events.
So cool.
The police give me special license to show the police insignia at police events. I have to renew the license with them each year. Oh. They're very strict about all of this. I cannot drive the car with police insignia showing or with the lights on the roof. They need to be covered up. If it's on the street with the police insignia on it, I must be under police escort or have a police officer drive it. I think different states have different laws. The fact is, it's an old car. It doesn't make it legal to drive with police insignias. Yeah.
Yeah, we actually looked into this. So it is different in each state. And in New South Wales, the police logo it's copyright. So this is actually, you can't be using their branding without license to do so. So and as kind of dumb as this sounds, it's like driving around with a big Coca-Cola sign on your car. Technically, you need usage rights of that because that's a copyright thing. So the laws in New South Wales are different. In Victoria, you can, but the car needs to not be something that someone would feel you're pretending to be a police person. If you're just simply driving to a car show and putt-putting in traffic, you're fine. But you can't have the reds and blues. So red and blue lights are limited to emergency service vehicles.
And so they should.
Yeah, and that's it. So you can't have red and blue lights on your car no matter what. And if you are a replica police vehicle in all states, you have to have those covered. But in Victoria, you can have the police livery on. There's a guy that often goes to some of the car shows in Melbourne in a yellow VL BT1 Interceptor. So that's the VL Commodore with the Nissan RB30 in it. He's got proper police signage on it. It's got all the things, but he has a little cover over his lights until he gets it parked, and then you can take them off.
So if you had a Mad Max V8,
yep,
and it had the blue flashing light on, it's illegal.
Yeah, you have to have that while you're driving. So if you're on the road, you have to have that light covered or obscured. But when you stop, you can have it on display.
There's a picture of this car. It's a white car with the Highway Patrol sign on the back.
So cool.
And the police light on the top. It's going across the Harbour Bridge. Very, very good.
I had a Charger for a while there. It was a 72 VH, and it had the 265 Hemi 6-cylinder in it. And it had a very, very low suppression exhaust on it. And I used to accelerate in second and then come off the gas, and you get this great sort of back pressure, brrr, and you go past cars on Chapel Street in Melbourne, and it would set off all the car alarms because of the vibration. It was so much fun.
Let us know about your car passion. Luke Boner, radioguy@gmail.com. So let's get to the FJ Holden. This is a question that often comes up at barbecues and gatherings. The first Holden car ever made in Australia was the Holden 48215, better known as the Holden FX. It was launched on November the 29th, 1948 by then Prime Minister Ben Chifley. It was released at the General Motors Holden factory in Fisherman's Bend, Melbourne. If that's the first Australian-made mass-produced car, why is the FJ Holden the most iconic? James Ward.
Well, look, they're kind of the same shape. So in the same way, an EH Holden and EJ Holden are very, very similar in their thing. The FX, so the 48215, that was the prototype. That was the very first car produced. It was Australia's first own car. So designed, manufactured, and built in Australia. So they had that as the prototype. The FX wasn't its official name. It was a 48215. And it ran for about 5 years. They produced that before the FJ superseded it. And the FJ ran for only 3 years. But in that 5-year period of the FX, they made about 120,000. But in the 3 years of the FJ, they made about 170,000. So by a sheer concentration, and by the time that Australia was sort of really getting around that own car thing, you think those two cars, you've got 300,000 Holdens in the FX and the FJ are produced. This is a huge volume of vehicles for the Australia at the time to be buying. And I think by the initial stage of the FX, yes, it was the first, but by the time that FJ momentum was really kicking in, it was the car that you could buy at that stage. And so the mass populace and that mass understanding of the Australian car happened when the FJ was in production. So even though they were kind of, and honestly, you could show an FX and an FJ to someone, and they would just call them both an FJ because they do look very, very similar. Different grills, different lights, different bits and pieces, but it's the same curvy shape. And I think the FJ just hit that note in terms of populist understanding at that time, and it's just what has become kind of the known car of what it was. So it's not a slight on the FX. The FX was not a rare thing, a problem. It was just that the populist understanding of this was the Australian car happened at the time that the model shifted from FX to FJ. But pretty amazing to think, right? And you see them around today. I was in regional Queensland not that long ago. I saw a yellow, and I'm going to call it an FJ because I couldn't tell you if it was an FX or an FJ because it was parked and I went past it. But still amazing to see them out and about. They're a rare bird, but it's pretty cool. It is a part of, like we said with the other Holdens and Fords, they've got this indelible part of Australian culture. So we should just celebrate them every time we see them.
You remember the band Old 55 and the lead singer, Frankie J. Holden.
Frankie J. Holden.
Is that because they were celebrating the music of the 50s, Old 55, and the FJ was a symbol of the 50s?
Frankie J. Holden now runs a tourist park, like a caravan park and an accommodation thing in New South Wales. Trent from our Sydney office saw him. Trent was driving a Kia EV9 around doing a lap of Australia. We did a TV show called The Lap, and he bumped into Frankie J. Holden, and they had a chat because I think At one point, Trent came through, it's in Gippsland. Is it Traralgon or Trafalgar is where it is. There's a Holden Museum there, and it's one of Frankie J. Holden's, old Holden's, is in the Trafalgar Holden Museum. So
there you go.
It's probably time to get out there again. I might send one of my team out there to go write a story, because some of the car museums around Australia, there's some pretty cool stuff.
I think Wilbur Wilde was in Old 55.
Wilbur Wilde, no, that's taking me back. And
Glenn A. Baker.
Well, Red was in, I'm thinking the old Hey Hey It's Saturday musician.
Yeah, he was in the Hey Hey It's Saturday band with
yeah, Wilbur on sax, Red on guitar.
And Red Summons on guitar from Skyhooks. Old 55, I think, were discovered and managed by Glenn A. Baker.
Oh, God. It's a who's who.
And I love them. If Kelsey doesn't know what we're talking about, just play a little bit, Kelsey, of Looking for an Echo. How good was this?
We were looking for an echo, an answer to our sound.
Or On the Prowl. Remember this?
On the Prowl. Now, I remember this one.
On the prowl, that's how we get our fun. On the prowl, don't you tell my mum.
Remember this?
Even though this is, let's be really clear, this is before my time, but I do remember this
Unfortunately, it was very much my time. Bastard.
I remember Skyhooks because Shirley Strawn was on the afternoon kids show. That's my kind of connection. That's my era. Remember Shirl's Neighbourhood, where Shirl Strawn from Skyhooks, he ran a kids show on the afternoon.
I know, and died tragically in a helicopter.
Yeah.
Very sad. Just some news. I wanted to get your thoughts about all of this. 10 public charging stations across the Gold Coast have been suddenly switched off.
Yeah.
It's left electric vehicle owners scrambling to find alternatives. What's happening here?
Yeah, so look, we still are third world in our electric vehicle charging infrastructure. And this is the thing, right? There's no national kind of organised. There you get federal funding, you get state funding. There's always some politician on a soapbox saying, look at what we've done. But then you get councils going, well, we control this, it's our land, we're going to take them out. They're either slower, or they're not being used, or we want to use the land for something else, and we'll repurpose and try and find it. And it's these kind of things that there's not really an effective national strategy, because these in Queensland, they were a first generation charger. I don't think they're 50 kilowatt. I think they may have been a slightly slower one. The demand is there now for slightly faster chargers rather than super, super fast. You do need upgraded electrical infrastructure to put them in. But what we have found on the road is a lot of these chargers fail over time. They need maintenance on them. They need to be updated and repaired. And the parts and service for them is kind of very ordinary. And really, right? So here's the thing. While we've got our National Wave Day, the other thing I'm going to stick my flag in the sand for, we need an electric vehicle ombudsman. And so you have an ombudsman, which is a wonderful word if you ever have those letters in Scrabble or want to impress your friends at dinner. But you have an ombudsman, which is basically a governance body for various things. And there is a finance and banking ombudsman. So if you feel you've been hard done by your bank, you can go to this person and they will help you fight your fight. There are ombudsmans for telephones, for water, for gas, for other major services. So why don't we have one for the growing electric vehicle user and infrastructure base that we have in Australia? And that way you've got then a central kind of, fighting arm to get in there and go, no, these do need to have a minimum uptime. They do need to be repaired. They do need to be made available. They do need to have a service level agreement with the public that is then enforced. So, yeah, look, with these sorts of things happening, you've got private shopping centres that will put them in and then take them out because they want to put in more car parking. You've got obviously local councils who put them in, they'll take them out because they want to use the land for something else. No one's regulating, no one's governing, and it's a bit of a shit show. So if you are travelling around the country in an EV, it is still hard to find charging. It's getting better, but it's not getting easier. How's that?
Do you know what? I'm going to throw this in. What does somebody with diarrhea and somebody with an electric vehicle, what do they have in common?
I don't know.
They're both very anxious as to whether or not they'll make it home in time.
Do you know what? It's the one that I like is how do you know?
You like that?
How do you know if someone's a vegan? They'll tell you. How do you know if someone's got an electric car? They'll tell you.
Exactly.
And it's the same kind of thing. But look, I'm spending a lot of time in EVs. I'm back in a petrol car this week. But I've got a plug-in hybrid next week. It is the changing face. They are terrific to drive, like quiet, fun, smooth, really easy. And if you do have your known charging infrastructure that sort of works with your life, it's the local shopping centre or you can charge at home, really easy to live with once you've got your routine down. It's the travelling that lets you down. So if you've got an EV, your Monday to Friday is sorted, you know how it works, but then that one road trip holiday you take, it's anyone's guessing game. And the best example I often give, we were filming an episode of Drive TV and I was in an electric Mercedes near Euroa in central Victoria. And the day we were there and we knew where the charges were and we had it all mapped out and we were sorted, had our plan, the day we were there, AusNet, the power supplier, said, hey, we're going to do some line maintenance. We're switching off the entire power grid of Euroa. There's nothing that you can do. So we kind of just had to sit around and enjoy the lovely hospitality of the Euroa town, which is great, but there's nothing. You're stuck. And so this whole thing of having a little bit more managed infrastructure, we're still years away. It's a pain. But if you live in the city, you're thinking of an EV, they're great. I'm a big fan. Plug-in hybrids, they work really, really well, but only if it suits you. And that's the thing.
Just while we're on electric vehicles, I wanted to get your opinion on this. There's a state government that's mulling over a total ban on e-scooters and e-bikes because of concerns growing about the dangerous use of them and the fact that they're largely unregulated and unregistered. The Transport Minister, Brent Mickelberg, has said that the Queensland government's prepared to make some big changes to how e-bikes are regulated amid a current review. It's a move that other states could quickly follow. Mickelberg has indicated his Liberal government might not shy away from a total ban of e-bikes.
Yep.
Amid widespread community concern. Your thoughts?
Mate, so by the time this podcast goes to air, we will have, I've got an opinion piece that's running on drive.com.au, which basically says this is enough, right? The Wild West can't go on. So look, banning all the e-bikes, I think just registering them. And if you have a powered bicycle, I don't care what any of these lobbyists go, but there's pedals to do. No. If you're pedaling your BMX, great, that's a bicycle, you're cool. If you have an electric powered device, whether it's a two-wheel scooter or a two-wheel bicycle, it needs to be registered. The ruling is because they're under 200 watts, so 0.2 kilowatts to have. I could right now go online and buy a 1,000 watt e-bike absolutely legally with no problems, no questions, no checks. And they say, just check your local area to see if it's legal to ride. No one's ever going to know. So there's no regulation as to the power of these devices. You see all these things of people hooning around. They're as fast as traffic. If it has any kind of power, electric or petrol or whatever, it needs to be registered or get rid of them. I don't win many friends by saying this and they say, you're a bit of a car elitist or whatever. Do you know what? If you're an adult on a scooter and you're commuting through traffic, you need to have a really good hard look at yourself because you look like an idiot. You are going to get badly hurt. If you come off that because you hit a bump in the road, if somebody knocks you or whatever, you are going to get incredibly badly hurt. Why? What are you doing? You look like a moron. Stop acting like a moron, walk, catch a bus, or buy a car or a push bike and be fit. But I don't win friends with this argument, and I'm expecting you can email me at james.ward@drive.com.au and voice your concerns about my position. But I agree, Luke, the power of these things, but because they're electric, you've got all these people, but they're great for the environment. No, they're not. Those batteries come out of the ground, they're heavy. Ride a push bike, bring back BMX bandits. I want to see kids on mongooses with tufts. If we were overrun by BMX gangs, I'd actually feel a little bit proud.
A little bit safer.
It's the pads.
Bring back my Dragster Mustang.
Yeah.
I had Sturmiachi 3-speed gears on the front. I had a sissy bar, a banana
It's
seat.
the pads. Remember all the pads and you'd...
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I had the half pads. Yeah, it was purple too. James, this week the federal government has raised the fuel excise by 0.08 cents from 50.8 cents a litre to 51.6 cents. Should we be scared?
No, not really. Look, here's the thing. If you are in a modern car, you're using less fuel now than you did years ago. You know,
I'm not.
Yeah, you're not. Okay, if you're not driving a V8 AMG, but you're doing that by choice, right? So let's be clear. The
Absolutely.
modern cars, and especially if you've got a hybrid, Toyota, you've got even something. These days, cars are doing 5, 6, 7 litres per 100 around town. When I started working at what was then Car Advice, so before Drive, and we were reviewing then 6-cylinder and 8-cylinder Commodores, like normal Australian cars, you would say, oh, the fuel consumption on this car is impressive at 15 litres per 100. We're now doing 5 litres per 100 in a RAV, and you're like, oh, I don't know, probably could be a bit lower. The fuel at the moment in modern cars is the least running cost that you've got. Insurance is going up, registration is going up, all these other things are going. The fuel is the least of your worries. But here's the other thing, and this is the one that, you know, I like Australians so much because we love to complain, but also do the opposite. So we have a wonderful voice in Australia that says fuel is too expensive, but also we cannot get enough 5.6 litre V8 Nissan Patrols. So those both things can't be true. You can't be just buying every 5.6 litre V8 Patrol that exists and loving it, and then also complain that petrol is too expensive. So look, adding the fuel excise 0.08, it's not going to make any difference to your weekly shop. The best thing, always look at your shopper dockets. Try and use the discounts on fuel. Shop for the best prices of fuel in your area. It does change depending on what state you're in. Work out what the patterns are, and you can save hundreds of dollars a year by just buying a bit smarter. Don't worry too much. More efficient cars are saving you more money than any government excise can account for.
We've got a bit of homework to do, James, between this and next time we talk. We will work on the National Thank You Wave Day. What else are we doing?
Well, we're doing National Thank You Wave. I will create an army of two-wheeled enemies by saying that every single powered e-bike needs to be registered. I tell you what, at least I'll have the Lycra brigade on my, in my corner this time, because I'm saying if you've got a pedal bicycle, that's okay. You can keep doing what you're doing. It can be Tour de France every Sunday morning on Beach Road, blocking all the lanes of traffic. That's cool. But if you're in a powered bike, you need to be paying registration. And I'd love to hear from you if you disagree.
I wonder if with all these electric bikes we now see school kids on, I do on our road going down behind me here every day down to the high school, and not much pedaling going up the hill either.
Can I say?
I wonder if in years to come we'll see an increase in the obesity levels.
Mate, can I also say they're not cheap? Have you had a look at how much?
$3,000. They're $3,000,
right? Like, this is the thing. Every 13-year-old has got an electric powered mountain bike. Who's buying these things for them? Like,
Mum and Dad.
They're expensive. Stop doing it. Go get a BMX. Let the kids pedal.
Let them eat cake and let them pedal.
Let them pedal.
Is what James Ward's saying. JamesWardDrive.com.au. We'll talk again soon. What do you got coming up?
So we are filming a special for Australia's value cars, driving value it's called. And so we're going to look at not only the most affordable cars, but what value means. So if you are looking for a new car or a near new car, value is top of mind. We're shooting that next week. We've got some exciting bits and pieces, but that'll go to air in September. I've got a big lift out in the paper that goes with that, so you can read all about it and then wrap your fish and chips up in it afterwards.
Very good. James Ward, talk soon.
Talk soon.
Beep, beep.
Stop listening to the AM dial, to the boring AM shows. Sick and tired of counting sheep, but they're talking that never flows. And stop apologizing for the things you've never done. Time is short, life at night. Oh, it's up to us to do a show called the Mancave. Yeah, do a show with Adam. Thomas holds the Mancave line. Tony Ann is a real stunt girl.
Time for another Man Cave with the Vice Captain, Adam McDonald from tropical Canberra. Hello, buddy.
Hello, mate.
No beanie today. You've got the air conditioning up, or what has Canberra suddenly gone warm?
No, I'm still at home this morning. I did sleep in a little, but just looking over the glorious Queanbeyan golf course, it is white with frost. It's a beautiful time to be alive.
Adam, star of the TV show Aussie Pickers, general manager of All Bids Auctions And you had a good week? Did you sell anything interesting?
Yeah, this week we've got, I put up online last night what we call an on-site sale, which is a one-house collector, and they're clearing the whole house. She was an antique dealer in Canberra in the 80s. The whole house is full of antiques, collectibles, rugs, artworks. There's a couple of Pro Hearts. So that all went up. That all went up online last night. I think there's a little over 300 lots. So what we do, we go into the house and I catalogue it in the house. It gets photographed in the house. People come and look at it in the house, and they come and pick it up from the house. It's a good little sale. So get online and have a look at that.
I can't wait to talk more about that. But we've got to jump in to our next guest. And on the Mancave this week, Adam, this is up your alley, Adam. So I'm going to let you do most of the talking. We read during the week that a bat signal had gone up across the world, let alone Melbourne, calling all superhero collectors to Blackburn, where an extremely rare 1,300-piece Batman collection has gone up for sale. Now, the bloke who was the subject of the documentary Batman and Me started his collection back in 1989. Incidentally, that was the same year Tim Burton changed the superhero film scene with that gritty Batman film starring Michael Keaton as the Caped Crusader and Jack Nicholson as the Joker. Well, today, Dags Maxwell, as he's known, his collection is worth around $50,000 and it's up for sale. And Dags Maxwell joins us in the Man Cave on the Bonafide podcast. Dags, g'day.
Party, party, party. I tell you what, it's worth a lot less now because most of it, or not most of it, but a lot of it's actually been sold off already.
We'll get to that in just a second. But Adam, I know you're dying to talk to Dags Maxwell.
Yes.
There must be a lot you want to talk to him about.
Yeah, Dags, good to meet you, mate. Good to have you on the Bonafide podcast. Why Batman is my first thing.
Well, I had an interest, obviously, in Batman because of the '66 TV show. I think a lot of people, because I was a kid, when that series came out, and I think everybody sort of really dialed into it and loved it. But when they got around to doing the Tim Burton movies, it was the first time, and a lot of people forget this, it was the first time we ever saw Batman in a whole black outfit, right? And that was just so revolutionary at the time because superhero movies in the 70s and the 80s were still in the cartoon sort of fest, the popcorn design and style. But when they did the first Batman film, you go, oh my goodness, Batman's completely in black. And cinematically, it was just absolutely stunning. And because I have a Star Wars background and my favourite character was Darth Vader, I just associated the two together.
Yeah, right.
And it was absolutely magnificent to look at. And for that reason, I kind of just went down that rabbit hole that even some rabbits don't want to go down. And but I thought it was the coolest thing ever. Now, of course, Batman looks black all the time. But back then, it was the first time, and a lot of people seem to forget that.
Yeah, because he traditionally was blue with black jocks, wasn't he?
Yeah, it was a bit of a mixture, depending if you're watching like the comic, or if you're watching the 60 series or like the comics. But yeah, for the most part, it was always grey with a blue accent. So they did do when I think there's The Dark Knight Rises. The Dark Knight. Sorry, in the 80s there was a graphic novel, and I think that's when they started going into the dark sort of direction. But not until the film came out did we actually see it on screen.
Why do you reckon Robin got scrapped?
Oh, Robin's just a punce. You got to remember the reason why. It's true. I mean, the reason why Robin was first introduced was just to give Batman someone to work against. And have someone to sort of talk to rather than just being a lone character. In real life, if Batman existed for real, there would be no Robin. So it worked in the comics because then you could work on two age levels, the adults and the younger people. And of course, in the TV series, I mean, it made a lot of sense because it injected a bit of color. And of course, then Batman or Bruce Wayne had someone to work with. But in the movies, you wouldn't do it. And so Batman was always a loner. And they had to kind of keep it that way, which they did for the first two films.
Yeah, righto. So me being a collector myself, I'd realised the time and effort you go to source this sort of shit. Where did you source most of your stuff? Was it online auctions, garage sales? Like, where do you get most of your stuff?
You know what? When one of the reporters asked me that question, did you go online on that? It's like, oh my God, it just shows how old or how young you are. There was no online when I was buying. It didn't exist. The internet didn't exist, right? So between 89 and 97 when I was collecting, it was all Joe legwork, just shop after shop after shop in different cities, different states, collectors' fairs. I even went to America at one point in 1993. So it was all just hunting around, and the idea was that you're in the zone with the logo. You're constantly looking for it everywhere. And, of course, the trick to collecting for me anyway, wasn't just toy stores. It was like supermarkets. It was like chemists. It was like bong shops and department stores. You went everywhere because you'd be amazed at the things that you found. And because I was looking for anything I could get my hands on, it wasn't just one like genre of, like it wasn't just toys. I wanted clothes. I wanted shoes, I wanted toiletries. I wanted Band-Aids. I just wanted everything I could get my hands on. And you had to think outside the square when it came to looking for this stuff.
But I can't believe that you've even got Batman chocolate, 33-year-old chocolate in your fridge, correct?
Yeah, well, that's the thing that everybody loves talking about. And, of course, that just started as a joke because the Batman Returns Batmobile came out in 1992. So I bought one and my mate bought one. It came in a really beautiful box with a nice clear window. And chocolate, of course, turns white as time goes on. And so I think maybe a month or two later, he rings me up. My mate rings me up and says, mine's just crumbled, right? And I thought, holy hell, that's no good. So I just put mine in the fridge. And it's been there for 33 years now. So it's probably the only one in the world, and it's the one thing everybody loves talking about. So I thought, mate, I've just created this entire trend for this bit of confectionery because most people are just stunned at how old it is and the fact that it's still there. And, of course, you can see it in the fridge itself. It's not hidden behind a box or a packet or a wrapper or anything like that, which is very groovy.
What I've found in my experience is once you start collecting something, people in that game find something of that you would collect, and they'd hit you up and say, "Look at it," like because I've got an unhealthy obsession with ghetto blasters. The 1980s boom boxes.
Yep.
And anything Sony. So the people that I know that or who know me, if they find one, they'll give me a call and say, "Adam, I found this ghetto blaster. Do you want to come and have a look at it?" Do you find that you got that people would know that Dags is the Batman guy? So if I find something, I'll hit him up.
Well, I was very lucky because I was part of a large community of people within like the science fiction realm, and there were collectors everywhere, and like everybody was associated with something. So over there to the left was the Star Wars guy, in front of me was the Transformers guy, and over there here was the Thunderbirds guy. So I became the Batman guy, and yes. A large, or not a large percentage, but a percentage of my collection actually came from gifts and things that people found for me. Girlfriends, mate, they were absolutely fantastic. Birthdays, Christmas, I was the easiest guy in the world to buy for. And the trick was people would try and find things for me that I'd never seen before. And it wasn't just action figures and trading cards. I was sick to death of those things. But when I was given things that I'd never seen before, I go, that is absolutely the coolest thing. That is groovy. That was a massive buzz. So, yeah, I was very, very lucky. So instead of people just saying, I saw this over this fair, they would actually buy it and give it to me. So I scored very well out of donations. It worked out really, really well. I mean, when I turned 30, I had a birthday party and every item bar one was Batman related.
Oh.
Like even the wrapping paper was Batman related.
Yeah.
It was absolutely nuts. And but it was awesome. It really was really cool.
Yeah. Have you sought treatment?
I should have actually. It's kind of funny. So there's two elements to it. One was collecting is fun and enjoyable, but I was addicted to it, and that was the problem. And this is what I sort of discussed in the documentary Batman and Me, where I couldn't control it, and I was buying things I didn't like. Right. So remember, if you look at the mindset of wants versus needs, do I want it? Yes. Will I buy it? No. Do I want it? Yes. Do I need it? Yes. But in my case, it was, do I want it? No, I don't want it. Do I need it? No, I don't want it. Or I don't need it, but I'll still buy it anyway. That was the thing. I couldn't control myself, and I was buying products, Batman products that I didn't like, and I knew I didn't like them, right? Especially when Batman Forever came out. And it's like, who does that? I mean, that was nuts. I remember going through the supermarket checkout and thinking, I'm buying these things and I despise them. It's like, why am I doing this? But I couldn't stop myself. So yes, it was an addiction in my part.
It's interesting where, as time goes on, what I call these mass-produced collectibles, they don't become collectible anymore, and I can see what you're saying, but what is the earliest Batman piece you have?
My earliest one wasn't that early, funnily enough. So I did end up with a couple of items from the 60s. Now, before we went on air, Luke and I were talking about Corgi Batmobiles. They are quite easy to find these days, but they're loose. They're always out of the packet, and hopefully they've got the two figures in it, and I had a couple of those. So you could probably argue they're the earliest, but I mean, a loose Batmobile to me was kind of useless, really. You need it in the box. So I did have a couple of items from the 60s, but most of my collection started from 1989. Having said that, I did actually have a jigsaw puzzle, and this is what made me cry. I had a 1960s jigsaw puzzle of Batman, and one day I went to the local bazaar here, and I thought, wow, I saw it on display for sale, and I thought, I've got one of those. How cool is that? And of course, at that point, it was 30 years old. I thought this must be like a price tag of like $100 because that means mine at home is worth $100. No, it was only like $8. And I nearly cried. I thought after 30 years, it hadn't been appreciated in value at all, which means mine was useless. So yeah, it was kind of a bit tricky. So, but yes, in terms of 60s items, which I personally think are the creme de la creme of Batman collectibles, I had very few of them because it was so hard to find and the prices were just out of my price range.
Adam, Dags was just talking about the Corgi Batmobile. Now, I'm a bit older than I know I'm a bit older than you, Adam. I was born in 1962, Dags, and so I grew up watching the Batman TV series with Adam West and Burt Ward. And I just loved it. And I loved the very groovy 60s psychedelic camera angles. I was so young I didn't realise how camped up the thing was. To me, it was just pantomime. But I love Batman. And Cesar Romero was in it. Burgess Meredith, the Penguin. I mean, Eartha Kitt even had a short stint as Catwoman. Julie Newber. I was in love with Yvonne Craig, who played Barbara Gordon and Bat. And I just absolutely loved it. The kapow, the zoom, all that. So anyway, Adam, I had a fair bit of Batman stuff because I loved it. And I had a Corgi Batmobile, which is only about 7 or 8 inches long. It was metal. It had a button at the front, Adam, and if you pushed it, a blade came down to cut chains, I guess. It actually fired real pink bullets out of the exhaust rockets on the back shelf. You turned a little dial and they would go bing, 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 and it would fire these bullets. If you pushed it along, a plastic pink flame came out of the exhaust. I mean, it was the coolest thing in the world. And, of course, like most toys you have when you're a kid, you discard them. And would it be worth anything now, the Corgi? See if Kelsey can find a picture of it, the Corgi Batmobile.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And especially as Dags was talking about in the box, in mint condition, you know, you're probably looking at 7 or 8, 9, maybe $1,000, maybe more. I just got contacted from a gentleman that's got a collection of movie-related Corgi cars. So he's got James Bond, he's got a Batman, and these are all boxed up. And he's coming and see me at 10 o'clock today. So that's pretty exciting. So I'll keep you posted on that. But the thing with collectible toys is, as soon as the kid got it, they ripped it open and started playing with it. So that in itself it totally devalues the product. But if everyone grew up with a kid that'd get a toy and had just put it away like a weirdo and just look at it and not open it,
they're meant to be played with.
Yeah.
It's worth noting with the Corgi Batmobiles, there's 2 varieties of it as well. So there was the earlier version and the later version, and the biggest difference between them is one has the Batman logo on the wheels and the other one doesn't. And one of them is actually a gloss paint job and the other one has a matte paint job. So I think the one with the matte paint job and the wheel hubcaps, if you will, they were the first versions, and the later versions were gloss without the wheel trimming. So you got to be wary of which Batmobile you're getting, whether it's an early one or a later one. So there you go. Bet you didn't know that.
I didn't. Corgi spelled with a C, Corgi. The one I had was shiny.
Yeah, so that would have been the later version. When we say later, we're not talking decades later. We're talking maybe a couple of years later.
Yeah, that's right.
But there are 2 different variations of the Batmobile, because when you look at this A version, you go, I've never seen it like that before. One's that? And I think that was the earlier version. So just something to be aware of. But yes, the figures in the car are the most important ones. So that's where the money is.
I even had a yellow plastic utility belt that came with bat handcuffs.
Yep.
I guess that was maybe for him to use with Catwoman.
With Robin.
When the cameras got rolling.
I would.
But it also had the boomerang, the Batarang.
The Batarang, yes.
And it had the bat sign on the front with a silver backing. I had all of that stuff. And we used to get the great arguments, Adam and Dags, over who was the best superhero. And everyone said Superman's the better superhero because he's just super. And Batman is mortal. Do you get that? I'll ask you both that question. Do you get that in memorabilia world, these arguments about who was the better? And I always get DC mixed up with Marvel.
Oh, it's confusing, yes. I was never a huge superhero fan. I was more of a realist. I was an A-Team guy. I got lots of A-Team memorabilia. But I think Superman gets the prize. Because he had X-ray vision, he had superpowers. Batman was immortal. He had some good tools, and he had his little mate Robin. But for me, Superman was the king.
So I pity the fool for anybody who collects A-Team merchandise. I thought
Very
I'd just
clever.
chuck that in.
I pity the fool. That's very good.
Very clever.
Yeah, very good. So I've obviously got to pick Batman because he's a mortal guy. Superman is an alien, so I just sort of chuck that out there. And of course, Batman was just the rich dude who was able to become a superhero. So by today's standards, Elon Musk could become Batman in real life. So because he's got enough money to build all these Bat caves and Batmobiles and Bat stuff. So he could actually exist in real life. So I think it's a no-brainer there. Besides that, as I said, Batman wears black. Superman doesn't. So it's a non-discussion as far as I'm concerned. And Batman does. Hang on. And Batman does have a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, and I don't think Superman does.
Really?
It was April this year. They unveiled one. Yeah.
The thing that always puzzled me, both of you, was the Batcave was unbelievable. It had all this technology, flashing lights, computers, turbines to speed, all that sort of stuff. It would have taken thousands of man-hours and thousands of people to build it, and yet it was a secret.
Yeah.
Well,
all those workers that built the Batcave, did they all sign NDAs?
Yeah, I suppose they did, didn't they? Because at least in the movie Batman Begins, they kind of explain it. Yeah, there's a cave under the house. Yeah, fair enough. But yeah, I think they're trying to suggest that Bruce Wayne fitted it out himself. So he's a pretty clever guy. But the fact that in your 60s show, they had a nuclear reactor in it. It's like, how does one put a nuclear reactor in the cave without anybody knowing about it?
And what was the older fella's name? Alfred?
Alfred.
That hung around late?
Yes.
Was he around in the early Batman?
Yeah,
in the TV series, yeah.
Did you know though? You know how in the 60 series you had Aunt Harriet there, right?
Yes, that's right.
Do you know what? Do you know why Aunt Harriet was put in as a character?
Why?
Go on. There's a question for you, Luke. You watch the show. Why was Aunt Harriet included in the show?
I remember her being in it. Yeah.
Yeah, the concern was, and this is still a true story, that the producer said, where you got Bruce Wayne living with this young dude in his house with their old butler. It does have homosexual overtones. So they actually added in Aunt Harriet to break it up, put a female character in there, and that's the true story. Because you think about it, you got this old guy living with this young guy, and you go, well, that just sounds dodgy on so many levels. Oh, stick Aunt Harriet in there, that'll break it all up. And it's all good to have a youthful award, but what the hell? What are you doing with a youthful award?
Yeah, and they were running around at night in tights and their jocks on the outside. So I get it.
Undies are on the outside.
As one does.
Yeah.
the Alfred in the TV series was played by a bloke called Alan Napier. But I know Michael Caine was an Alfred. There's probably a few of them.
He was very good.
Alfred.
Yeah, Christopher Nolan movies, it was Michael Caine, yes. Batman Begins, Dark Knight Rises, for those who are not paying attention. Yep.
Dags, is there a piece of your Batman memorabilia that you will never sell?
So in the documentary, this is a bit of a spoiler alert for those who are about to watch it. In the documentary Batman and Me, before I started collecting, I actually did buy a couple of items that I actually opened up and used them, which was just ridiculous. So one of them was the 1990 calendar, took it out of the packet and used it, which is kind of stupid because I didn't do anything with it. But I also bought the children's board game as well. Now, why? Because I was 22 years old at this point, so why would I open up a board game for a child? I got no idea, but I did, and I regretted it for decades. And in the movie Batman and Me, Michael Wayne, the director of the movie, actually was able to source a mint condition copy of the board game, still sealed, and he gave it to me as a gift. So even though I'm selling off and have sold off the collection, I thought, well, clearly that board game's got to stay with me as a memory of that particular documentary being made. So, yeah, so that's definitely something that I've hung on to, which is pretty groovy.
But having the same illness as a collector that you've got, Dags, what's next? Because you can't stop.
Oh.
What's next?
No, I got out of it.
No, you can't stop. You'll get that itch that you can't. I really like this. I've got to get it.
But I will tell you, now, I did stop in 1997, and I'm completely cool with Batman stuff now. It doesn't bother me. But having said that, I still, as of today, will not go to the Batman section of eBay. I had a scenario about, maybe 7 or 8 years ago where I did see a Batman 1989 collectible that I'd never seen in my entire life at a store, and I had a real moment of, indecision as to what to do. And I was there by myself, and I was just looking at this. It was a chocolate bar from the 89 movie. I didn't even know it even existed. And they had a box of these things. And that caused a bit of a conundrum in my mind as to what do I do? Do I buy it? Because if I do, I'm heading down that dark path again, or do I just leave it? And in the end, I left it. But, yeah. So now I'm completely out of the collecting game now. I'm pretty cool with it. But and I'm kind of glad I got out when I did, because obviously eBay became a thing in the late 90s, and it would have been pretty ugly. But now the bat shields are up, if you will. And it doesn't bother me anymore now. So, yeah, it's good.
Have you been happy with the prices that you've been getting for stuff?
See, it's funny because there are two ways of selling, all right? Clearly, I could have gone down the eBay route, sold it all off, auctions, whatever else. But, I mean, 1,300 items, I would be for 10, 20 years trying to get rid of all that. And some things would go, some things wouldn't go. It was just like a logistical nightmare. And I thought, I can't be bothered. So my mate who runs the store, Aaron's Collectibles, we had a good chat about it because he has an upstairs area in the store that wasn't being used. And we had a really good natter about saying, okay, can we just set it all up there and just sell off, effectively on commission. And that seemed to have been the best way to go about it. So where I'm losing is in the financial return in some areas, and I fully accept it because he priced all the items. I didn't do that. That was part of the agreement. He would price the whole lot. So even there are some things, even I don't know what they're going for, but it looked good and it just worked out well. So, and it's supporting him. So I'm really helping a mate. So we really are scratching each other's backs. So if you were to say, am I getting maximum money for every item? No, is the answer. But I'm happy with what I've got. And, of course, we're still going. We haven't sold it all. There's still like maybe 70, 80% left. And I'm completely content with that. And so I'm very pleased with how it's all worked out. So, yes, there are people who say, you could have got a lot more for that, because there's always that argument of saying, this is worth that. And you go, well, that's great. But what if nobody wants to pay that for it? It'll just sit there and go nowhere. So that's why we thought it was important that the pricing be more realistic. And that's the reason why we're now under 1,000 items. So over 300 have already sold off. And for that reason, it's the best way of going about it.
Yeah, I think I get this every day when someone will come to me and say, what will this get at auction? And I'll say, it's worth $1,000 at auction. It's, I've seen it for $3,000 on eBay. And I'm like, yeah, you've seen it on $3,000 on eBay. You haven't seen it sell for $3,000 on eBay. So eBay pricing is a lot different to realistic pricing. So I totally get that. I totally get it. And it's really nice that you as a collector have priced it to sell, and so other people can enjoy this shit. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I deal with collectors all the time and say, no, I want this much for that. If it doesn't sell, I'm going to keep it. So why? You've come to me to sell it. You want to get rid of it. But now you want to be stickling on price. Let it go. Let someone else enjoy it, and it goes off into the world. Otherwise, you're just going to be stuck with it, and you're still at point A. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, and that's exactly right, and that's the attitude that we had too. And it's worked well, because as I said to people, the last thing you want, like we've set up this entire couple of rooms, it looks fantastic. You get all these people walking in, and they go, it looks awesome, but it's too expensive. And then people walk out not buying anything. It's like, that doesn't achieve anything.
Yeah.
So what's funny, though, is that when I was collecting in the 1990s, as I said earlier, I was buying things I didn't like, right? I know there were things that I despised. And because on my website that I created, I highlighted that. But 30 years later, I'm astounded by the things that I considered rubbish at the time, which are now considered not necessarily valuable, but in demand. Like Batman Forever, which is its 30th anniversary this year. I didn't like Batman Forever at all, but for some reason, Batman Forever merchandise has had a bit of a comeback, and there's been a bit of a demand for it. And on the sale that occurred last week, there were people coming in buying Batman Forever stuff, and I'm thinking, why on earth would you do that? But their history with the movie is completely different to mine. And I thought, well, if it's working for you and you like it, great. And I've got items that they've never seen. So it's funny how what I thought would be useless has actually been quite desirable. And that's actually really good to see, but very surprising. It is hard for my brain to compute it. But, if people walk away with a happy story at the end of the day, then that's the best thing.
Well, mate, it's a very important thing that it's a lesson I learned a long time ago is there is a collector for everything. You just got to find them.
Yeah.
Just because you don't rate it doesn't mean it's not collectible. When I was doing the TV show, this is a well-known story. When I was doing the TV show, I found a pair of false teeth in this barn. I started collecting false teeth.
Oh, God.
I had these false teeth in a cabinet in an antique store for 18 months. No one wanted to buy them. I thought, you know what, fuck it, I'm just going to chuck them out. A week before I was going to go back in there, a retired dentist walked in and I sold them for top dollar. So it's all about finding the collector. Everything's collectible. You just got to find the right people.
Well, I'll tell you what, I reckon dentures is a great one because that is definitely one collection you can sink your teeth into.
Get out, Tags.
And it was like, the denture story, mate, can you fill me in on a bit more of that history?
we may have to extract this part of the conversation from the podcast.
No, that's actually worth millions. There you go. And the other thing too, of course, has been the media exposure for the sale last Saturday, which was completely nuts. Between Thursday and Friday, it actually went viral. We don't even know why. Channel 9 came to the store on Saturday, did a news thing for the collection. They screened it at 5 PM, and of course our store was open until 6. And at 5:30, these two tradies walk in. And they, it's like, oh, okay, this is surprising. These two dudes have just rocked up, and they lived or were in the next suburb. Saw the 5:30 broadcast on Channel 9 News. Saw in the background that I had a Michelle Pfeiffer Batman or Catwoman poster block mounted in the background. They saw it on TV in the news. They bolted down to the store, walked straight on in. They said, yeah, we want that. And I said, well, it comes as a set of 4. So it's Batman Returns. You've got the 3 characters plus the poster in the middle, all block mounted, ready to go. And sure enough, they bought them. So that's the power of the media for you. So I thought, wow, how cool is that? So, yes, the media exposure for this thing last week certainly helped sort of get the word out there. And it's got you guys to me. You wouldn't have heard about me otherwise. So it's kind of nuts.
Most obscure Batman item that you had?
I reckon probably not the most obscure. I reckon the sunscreen I can't get my head around. Why would the Dark Knight need sunscreen, mate? He only comes out in the dark, so what's the deal with that?
Wow.
They marketed some weird and wacky stuff. I mean, just even not that long ago, there were Batman tissues. One thing I really wanted to get, but they never released it, was Batman condoms.
Wow,
that would
really?
be worth it, but they never did. If they did, they would have been unofficial ones. But because they marketed everything, I thought, oh, that would be just fantastic. Some really left field wacky stuff.
Yeah.
But but there are definitely things there that I look at. You look at them, and you go, why did they even make this? I mean, just because you can doesn't mean you should. It's part of the story of the entire thing, and that's why we think that people are really interested in the collection and buying parts, because every item has a story associated with it. Which also now means that those people who bought those items also have a story. So you can imagine you've walked in, you bought something from the shop, you go home, and someone says, where did you get that from? He said, well, one of Australia's biggest Batman collectors was selling up. I went to the store, found this item, blah, blah, blah. So that item now has a brand new story associated with it. And, of course, there's a bit of me now living in all these houses. If you're going to leave a legacy, that's a damn good legacy to leave, just like those guys who bought those 4 Batman Returns posters.
Yeah, I mean, I think the best thing about these collections is the history lives on. Like people get to like exactly like you said. Like, oh, I got this. This was from Dags's Batman collection. This was Australia's biggest. Do you reckon you're the world's biggest Batman collector?
Oh, no. The world's biggest actually lives in Atlanta, Georgia, and he's got 14,000 items. I said one of Australia's biggest. Keeping that in mind, that I never collected ancillary characters. So I never collected Batgirl, never collected the Joker, Penguin, none of those guys. I was pure Batman and nobody else. And one of the things that does happen, you could look at photographs of really large Batman collections and you go, if you remove all the ancillary characters, right, that actually drops about 30 to 40%. Where I never had that problem. I just never collected anybody else. So if I got action figures, it'd just be Batman only, right? And I kept that motto the whole way through because I didn't want the other characters. So that's why we said probably one of in the country. But I only collected for 8 years, right? Most people have been collecting for decades. They've been at it for much longer than I ever did. So, but anyway, as I said, it's not definitely not one of the largest anymore because it's getting smaller by the day.
So how do people find you?
So the best thing to do if you're looking online is just aaronscollectibles.com. So that's actually the shop in Blackburn, Victoria. And I have my own website. If you want to read about the entire history of the collection, darren.maxwell.net. And there's a link there to the entire collection from birth and now effectively to death. And they can see all about it, read all the history, see all the photos. And it's an old website. It probably won't look very good on telephones, but on computers it'll be fine. And be sure to check it out, darren.maxwell.net.
And how do we see the documentary, which is called Batman and Me?
Yeah, that's currently screening on SBS On Demand. So you can just go to that and click on documentaries, type in Batman, it should pop up. And bearing in mind, I did not make it about myself. It was actually made by a guy in Sydney who came down and actually filmed it. So I don't think I filmed myself talking about myself. And that was produced. It was filmed 10 years ago and only got released in 2020. So you want to learn more about the collection as well, and the mindset, the psychological mindset behind it all, that's actually well worth having a look at.
Yeah, I get it. I totally get it. I once flew to Melbourne and back the same day to buy a Ghetto Blaster. Like, I totally get it. It's ridiculous.
You had your fraction too much fiction moment, is that right? If you get that joke?
Yeah, it's very good. Very, very good. So just before you go, and while I have you both, is collecting for people like yourselves, is it like an addiction? Is it like people who are addicted to pokies or to drugs?
Yes and no. Yes, in regards to that, there are people who buy things, and we see them in the store all the time, right? Because where I work. But I think a lot of people now know where the limit is. So I think to find someone who can't control themselves anymore is probably a little bit unlikely. In the end, it doesn't come down to the money so much as the space. It's the room it takes up. And Adam would be able to relate to this. I mean, as I said to people in the store, if you had a $100,000 stamp collection, it would fit on one bookshelf, right? But if you had a $100,000 toy collection, take like 3 bedrooms. So a lot of people, it's not about the money so much. It's more about where they put it all. And people are a lot more selective as to what they purchase. So, yeah, it's definitely not the same as like gambling or drugs or anything like that. But there are similarities. That's how I see it.
Can it become an illness?
Yeah, I think it can. I still, I've been in this game for 20 years, 20 plus years, and I still get that same. If I see something that I haven't seen before, I still get that same rush, that feeling like, fuck me, look at that. How beautiful is this? How old is this? How well made is this? And I still get it to this day. And it's the best thing about my job is that I love history behind stuff. I love how stuff is made. I love stuff, and I still get it to this day. I still get that same rush when I saw my first. I've got these toys here. They're called Sony action dolls, right? The first time I saw them, I've only ever seen 4 in my life. I bought the first 2 for $5,500. I think I paid for them, and I saw one the other day, and I still get that same feeling. Like, fuck me, look at this. I love it. It's a sickness. It is. But yeah. I don't see it as a sickness. I turn my life around and I use it as it's my happy place.
Well, as I've said to people in the store when they come in looking for things, I say there are far worse things to spend money on. And I agree with you, Adam. When I was in my collecting zone, when you picked up a really cool item you'd never seen before, it really was the dopamine rush.
It's unreal.
My God, this is so cool.
It's unreal.
It's interesting from my perspective, because I had the collection for such a long time and it never changed in 20-something years, to see it all on display and for people to see it for the first time. I'm now experiencing their dopamine rushes through their eyes.
Yeah.
Whereas I've been lugging this stuff around for decades. And for them, it's like, oh, my God, like even Aaron Challenger, the guy who runs the store, he was coming across items he'd never seen before. And he's been a professional collector and dealer for 40 years now. So I'm seeing it through their eyes, and it's great. It's fantastic. I'm getting a real buzz out of it, getting a lot of enjoyment out of it, and I'm just seeing how people react. And it's like, wow, who would have thought this was possible? So yeah, it's very cool. So I totally get it, dude. I know where you're coming from.
It's better than any drug I've ever taken. It's better than booze. It's better than anything. I love it. I absolutely love it.
I knew you were going with that. I was thinking, well, it's probably not as good as that.
No.
But yeah, exactly right. And and as we say to people, it's a healthy hobby. It's good fun. You can connect with a lot of people, and you're going to share some really good stories and just experience it all together. And it's perfectly safe and it's family friendly. How good is that?
The community is exactly right, because collectors know, Adam likes Ghetto Blasters, Andy likes tribal stuff. And it's exactly how I met Skipper. We were at a trade fair, at a collectible fair.
Yeah, we were.
And he just happened to bump into me and said, "Do you want to come and have a chat?" 10 years later, I'm attached to his hip.
The only downside is when you have a big collector's fair, and I've seen this happen. This is why I did not collect Star Wars, even though I'm a Star Wars person. I went to a collector's fair one day back in the 90s, and they had I was the first one to turn up, and they had a rare Star Wars item on a table, and I thought, I know 4 people who are going to want this. And I thought it could be nerds at 20 paces if all 4 of them turn up at the same time, because clearly 3 of them are going to be pretty disappointed. So, yeah, that's why I thought, no, just be wary of collecting something that is highly competitive, because it can get a bit tricky sometimes.
Well, I won't mention Star Wars.
Oh, I love Star. It's mine. But my history is Star Wars. But I didn't get into Star Wars collecting because there was another guy collecting anyway, and he was like years ahead of me. And of course, I've been to Steve Sansweet's house a couple of times, the biggest Star Wars collector in the world, and I go, yep, can't compete against that. So I stayed right out of it.
I love Star Wars, but I only like the first 3 movies. I hate the rest. So there you are.
I don't like any of it.
No, fair call. No, each their own. It's all good.
You're a fascinating character. I wish you all the best.
Good on you, Dags.
I'm glad to hear you're over your addiction, but I'm with Adam. I think something else is going to take hold of you.
Well, the other thing I collected in my travels, and this is like one of the big joke ones, is the film from 1984, Dune, right? I own every Dune toy they ever produced, every single one without exception, right? The whole lot. Now, you might be thinking, wow, I must have filled up a couple of like mansions full of that. No, it was actually like 6 action figures, 3 cars, a couple of guns, a big sandworm. It's like they produced nothing at all. But I got it all in one go. So I got 100% strike rate regarding Dune toys from the 1984 movie. So yay me.
Darren Dags Maxwell, thank you for joining us in the Man Cave.
Yeah, party hard, rock on, lads and ladies.
Good on you,
I've got to ask you this, in your opinion. Adam is my vice captain. He calls me the skip. But I want to know, in our relationship, who's Batman and who's Robin? What's your observation, Dags?
Oh, Jesus. I think maybe you're both Batgirl for all I know.
Oh, we're both Batman.
What about it be Fat Man and Ribbon?
Fat Man. Yeah. Hey, listen, nice to meet you. Good luck.
Good on you, mate.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks, man.
Thank you for listening. There's episode 42 done and dusted. 43 is just around the corner. It'll be bigger and better. Please leave us your feedback. Luke Boner, Radio Guy at gmail.com. Check us out on Facebook, Luke Boner, that Radio Guy. Leave us a voice message. And remember, I don't tell you what to think. I just like giving you something to think about. Like this, my thought for the day. If you really love someone, but they don't love you, set them free. Let them move on. And if they end up coming back to you, it means no one else wanted them either.